Back. This is part 6 of our Galactic history with Lance White and Andrew Bartzis.
Okay.
And there's something that you touched on in the last episode that I thought was really important to get some clarity on. You were talking about fear and how the dark t-shirts are basically throwing out all they can at this point, because they know that this is the time when they need to disrupt things. So June 21st apparently is a significant date.
Correct.
And why is that?
We've gone from galactic spring to galactic summer in unity with planetary summer. At that point in time is where we as a species naturally shed our old spiritual armor and create new. Think of a soft-shelled crab. It's shed its old, and we're in the soft stage. The 21st represents the day you shed your old energetic skin, and to the 14th of July is where you have the opportunity to create new ones. If you are in fear, you will never create that process, and you will just create the same spiritual armoring boundaries that you had before. We do this, it's just a natural process of being here. And then in December, we get an opportunity to create another one. So if for those that are truly doing the hard work being self-nurturing, self-love, self-healing, so you can heal others, that puts you in the path of being a fully aware light entity that respects the sovereign free will of yourself and others. The 21st is when they're going to turn on the fear again. In every level of media, in every level of society, there's going to be little games to get this group into fear, to get this group into fear. Information that they've been holding back, or stuff that maybe they only showed a little bit in 2012, but that's the teaser information. 2013 is about mining everything they created in 2012 to create fear. We're a manifesting, creating species, so our fear means we will create our own destruction, quite literally. We're at this point where there's not enough people in fear now to create destruction, but there's enough people still in fear to keep us from awakening.
Right. Right. So much of this will be on the internet? All the media?
It'll start with the 21st from the 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. wherever you are, local time. There's going to be a mass release of psychic parasites through the internet. And that'll cause people to go into polarity. It'll people angry. People go into their addictions. And they'll begin to spread these parasites. And this parasite is an actual industry of people that use the internet to gather these parasites. These parasites naturally exist on Earth. Just like bugs or flies that eat the carrion, these parasites clean the spiritual energies that needs to be reprocessed. There are other parasites that are brought from other worlds that have been crossbred with ours and have been given specific attack functions so they can go after high energy beings, even though a low energy being is the broadcast energy for this parasite to get into you. There's different types. There's one that bore in like a screw, others that come up through the feet, and their goal is to get into the liver system. We have energy meridians all over body. They might just come in through one toe and stick in there, and then just slowly burrow up. And if you're unaware that they exist, it'll just be leg crampings or something simple until finally they get into your energetic system, and they make you eat more carbs, put on weight, cause depression, or cause you to separate in your marriage. They really create havoc. The internet trolls that we've all experienced, they'll be in full force. They're actually people that are hired to attack people. Those people are being paid $85 an hour to do it. There's been all sorts of soft disclosure about these organizations that are hiring people to create fake internet sites, to put out fake information, and alternately to attack anybody that's bringing out a layer of truth they don't like.
Absolutely. And that's been going on for quite a long time.
Quite a long time.
And through all the various governmental agencies and so on, they all have their versions of it.
Correct.
One of the people that I interviewed recently was Eve Lorgan, and she talks a lot about these parasites and how to deal with them on her website. So this is just something that has come into my awareness recently, and the various kinds which you're talking about, and probably many more that we.
There's thousands.
Right.
Thousands.
Well, we know they're parasites within our bodies, so and then
natural. There's only energy parasites.
Yeah.
For getting rid of them, for everyone out there, salt is the great neutralizer.
Ah.
Salt. Pink Himalayan salt, standard kosher salt, not iodized salt. You need bigger size crystals. The kosher salt's bigger crystals. Sea salt's great. Colored salt. Put a Ziploc bag with a half a cup of salt, put it on the back of your neck, lay down on a pillow, and just let your energy meridians that are in the back of your neck flow through that salt. The salt will begin to create neutralizing energy that will repel the parasites. It's just like putting salt on a slug. They dissolve. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
For those people that are having trouble in dream times or having night terrors, put a bag of salt on your head, back of your neck and your tailbone. Use some little medical tape. It melds to your skin just like an ice pack. And you will not only take away the parasites, but allow yourself to have a natural regenerative sleep. So you can once again have the energy and the space to store your dreams.
Very good suggestions, and I think you also mentioned putting one on your router and
on your router, turn your cell phone off at night.
Right.
Turn your router off at night.
So there's no transmission.
No transmission. These parasites function through the transmission factors of all our different devices.
So if you shut everything down for the most part and minimize you
can still function with them when you're asleep. Turn them off.
Right.
You know, for those people out there that can't don't sleep with your cell phone next to your bed. It interacts with your dream time.
Right.
They lure you into the sacred dream time, local cities, so you never dream in a global dream time.
Right.
You're in the fake world. George talks about how much they've hijacked us. It goes even deeper than what he says. He could only point out what he's experienced, and I can only point out what I experience. But when people like us come together through talks like this, or we get the more and more and more of the picture. Mm-hmm. Without people like them stepping forward with the brass set out there, we wouldn't be in a scenario where we all can talk like this.
Right. The door's been open wide.
That's right.
Yeah.
Somebody kicked it open and there's the lock's broken on
it. And that also empowers other people to stand up in their own power and speak, their own truth. To even see it and experience it, which is going to be something new for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm. And just to clear something up, there's so many perspectives to look at this from. My perspective is the sacred neutral. This is information to me. There's no polarity in it. I don't have dogmas or political concepts or things that I'm promoting other than our full, transparent history with no secrets.
Mm-hmm. That's about time. It's about time. So, what are the period of time that this is going to be most likely to occur is all the way through July?
From the 21st of June to the 14th of July is your rearmoring phase.
Okay.
This is where people should turn off their cell phones, turn off their TV, begin to meditate, do whatever it takes for you to do to empower yourself.
Okay. Now, one of the other things that we were talking about in the last session was about Agartha and the fall of Atlantis, the third fall of Atlantis. Mm-hmm. Did you want to add anything more to that?
Where we left off there, I know we go back and forth a little bit, but to get this story, there's so much you have to understand about now, because if I just explain then, it doesn't interlink to now. And we understand everything in between there. There are people that are leapfrogging through time, making sure that there's a monetary system and a system of domination and control that's in unity conscious with disunity consciousness of creation. So the Hollow Earth and the Agartha network is to make sure that there's unity consciousness spreading amongst our people, that in Dreamtime that they can communicate with people, be Dreamtime protectors. Also, we have to understand this Agartha network also is off-world species. Off-world species are our soul family. Mm-hmm. Plain and simple, they are our soul family. Some are good, some are bad, some are neutral, some are really funny species, some are all musicians. We have to come to the understanding that we are the reflection of them, they are the reflection of us. We're all soul family. The Agartha network is the ambassadorial spot where these species can come in unity consciousness so that we can all see these reflections of ourselves, where we can hold galactic councils in a peaceful state and resolve issues, resolve karma. Many of us are going to be asked to be emissaries or ambassadors, but take out the human definition of emissary and ambassador. Take out that matrix and understand those people that go forth are the first layer of the graduating student that say, this is what I've learned, this is my life story. And everyone that comes out saying, this is my life story, this is what I learned in this galactic ascension machine. And the Hollow Earth will be the ones that hold that information for all 7 future generations that will come in after the system of domination and control is done. They're the ones that are going to have to oversee the backlog of immigrants that couldn't get in, or all those people that are stuck in the astral world that are told, no, you can't get in.
Wow. So, for some of us, the period of time that leads up to the event will be fairly quick.
Correct. The awake people will experience it much faster than the sleeps.
And so, what you're talking about now, the backlog and the rest of it, would that
after
be
event, after the second part. There's 4 phases of the event. It'll be after the second part of the event.
Okay, so can you go over those 4 phases again?
First phase is shared dream times.
Right.
Second phase is the adults in us begin to experience deja vu on a mass scale, as well as dreams. Third phase is where we begin separating realities, where the lower density people will dream themselves into a local reality, and the higher density people will dream themselves in a higher density reality, so that they can begin to be more in touch with their manifesting co-creating powers. This will be done through dream time. You may have a friend that disappears for a week and then comes back a whole different person. On a mass scale, sort of. But it only takes a few to change the world. And at the same time, it takes many to enforce the change to make it complete.
Right.
We can have change, but we won't have complete change until everyone experiences it.
So it pretty much is all for all of us working together.
All of us working together, and coming to removing of soul contracts with the system of domination and control. That's really what the third and fourth phase are, is where we're claiming our sovereign free will on a level where we're outmarching in the same scale and size of the 1960s and 70s.
Yeah, it seems like there's been such a large complacency, and that we've been just so dumbed down with artificial intelligence and technological controls. We've just been unable to even turn around without, to make a move. So there's bound to be a lot of changes that occur from now on, really?
Yes. In my current interfunction with the Akashic record, I've already seen the end, and there's a part of me already there. I couldn't do this without that. And honestly, it was a little disturbing at first, but it was also the spark of hope that I needed to complete this task, knowing that everyone that's followed the Galactic historian before me didn't survive, because when you stop secrets, people get angry.
So how does it end?
It's a Three Stooges show. Okay? I can't violate the sovereign free will of individuals, let alone a whole species.
But it will be obvious to...
Blatantly obvious. It's like the scene where the dress flies up and you see the underpants.
Yeah, great.
Or she's going European.
Well, it'll be a lot of fun for some people who've been, sitting in the theater, waiting for the show to begin.
That's right. Well, again, we don't need cheerleaders. We don't need people sitting watching the theater. We need people out there motivating people to claim their sovereign free will.
Right, and taking the steps and taking the actions and clearing yourself and healing.
Another thing about the Hollow Earth system, they're the ones that are going to, because they're soul family and will instantly recognize them when they're allowed to be on the surface world, on the graduating timeline. They're the ones that are going to take over our court system. Our court system is absolutely corrupt from the top down. It's meant to cannibalize its own people and put them into corporate slavery or physical slavery.
Yeah.
The court system will be something that immediately has to be addressed, because there's, 22 million people in our jail system here. Worldwide, I think, was it a 6 or 9% of our population of the whole world's in a jail system?
At least.
And then you have the sex slave industry. which is a giant industry, and it's an
Huge.
industry, and there
Yeah.
are slaves.
Yeah.
They will have to be taken care of by the new court system, and these will be called spiritual courts of equity, where your ancestors manifest in a full presence and allow what's been done to you to be read into fullness of the Akashic record, so you can fully get the healing that's needed by getting your sovereign free will. The sex slave industry has been created exactly to take the power away from the sacred feminine, and that has to be addressed immediately. The event, it's the event. The event really is about healing too. You know, our women and our men are doing things that are opposite of their nature because they've been lured that way, and they don't have the real information of what they're supposed to do, what they're supposed to be. You know, those women that are out there, they're having difficulty with their menstrual cycles. You can use meditation to connect to that energy and get deeper into an understanding of it. Those men that are highly sexually charged, it's time for you to understand that you can do your own vision quests. You just have to have the gratitude and understanding of what it takes to go through with it.
Now, it seems that concurrent with those things, there will also have to be a complete revamp of the, quote, financial system.
The banking industry is the chief violator of our free will. The chief violator. Only this world are you charged to live in it. Okay? And that I believe Alex Collier is the one that coined that phrase. You got to give him his credit for that, because it's a great saying. But on top of that, they tax you every lifetime, so you're never at full power. Okay? The banking industry is controlled by family crests, by manor rolls, by laws that are physically written to affect you on a spiritual level. Okay? The banking industry, the exchange for value system will have to be rediscovered the way the rest of the worlds in the universe work. The planetary sentience, Earth Mother, is the overseer of all exchange for values. Every single thing. And the Earth sentience will be a part of physical technology that guarantees a transaction is transparent and there's no foul play behind it. The scam artists are done. The telemarketers, done. Okay?
Good. It'll be a relief to see all that advertising that's popping up everywhere. I mean, it's getting so invasive that it just practically pops off the screen.
On purpose.
Yeah.
On purpose.
Yeah, it seems like it can't get any worse, and then they come up with a new technique for harvesting, you know, trying to harvest our money and our energy.
The banking system that we have today, when Atlantis was going through its final fall, they had a kind of a hybrid system of exchange for value. They traded technology for spiritual information. You know, World War II, World War I, and the Cold War was about creating the technology and then selling it to your friends for an even higher price to put them all into debt. The same thing was applied to the Atlantean levels. They traded their technology or their spiritual technology for resources, or for technology, maybe it's spiritual technology. They knew they were losing. They knew that they had to plan way ahead of time. And then they needed people to be a part of the resistance of Free Earth, which is all of us, and to be a cell of one. So you weren't a pod, you were a cell of one. So all of us individuals are a cell of one of the resistance of Free Earth. Everyone here at this time, all those people that haven't gotten to graduate, we're all resistance Free Earth. Every single one of us.
So, how can we take an active role in that?
There are so many books out there that begin the process. I can't even begin to name them all. I don't think it's appropriate to identify a single one in this, but they're out there.
Right.
You know, let your heart do that determination.
Right.
There's so many positive teachers out there now where they were never allowed to speak before. Go to a bookstore. Allow your heart to help make you the choice.
Right.
Okay?
Right. Gravitate towards the
Gravitate.
one, or let one fall off the shelf.
Pick up some crystals. Go do an energy healing class. do something that gives you information that you can use as a hobby that you do for fun and for free. When we don't come from a for fun and for free stage, it's a task, and we don't pull our full consciousness into it.
Right, right. Now you were talking too about some of the, we skipped around with the Time Wars. How extensive are they today, and what's going on with all these conflicts around the world? Is this just the ramping up of...
The conflicts around the world, all of the conflicts in the Arab world are about preventing 7 womb chakras from opening up. They have violence and war on them for an extended period of time, with the major exchange for value systems depositing taxed soul energy into those sacred geometry buildings and ancient technologies that have been there since the Atlantean fortification days. So those womb chakras are the ones that are going to open first. They've always known that. Therefore, those are the places that have to have war on the surface to prevent the Earth's unity consciousness reaching out through all of the chakras. So it's like putting a cork in it.
Are there also battles for stargates going on?
Absolutely. There's a massive attempt to smuggle DNA off this world, as well as living humans off this world. So any opportunity they find random rifts, or they find specialized rifts left over from technology that no one's known about for 52 million years, they will use it to their advantage, because they get repaid every time they can get the proper DNA off.
Wow.
You know, as for Time Wars, we're on a unified timeline since June 2011. But we here right now live all of our past, present, and future lives simultaneously. So when you begin to understand that layer, combined with the Time Wars layer, we can end all the Time Wars in unity consciousness, global dream time, where we can heal ourselves as a global society. The off-world wars are a little different. In 2006, we could have been done with this. The Syrian Grey and Orion wars, when they finally ended, the forces were so depleted, they didn't have the physical oomph to come here and kick them out.
Wow. And
tear the power out of their cold dead hands. But at the same time, they discovered a massive layer of corruption within their own late societies.
Wow.
And this corruption was using the DNA smuggling trade to save other races. There are many races out there that are on the verge of death. And on the verge of death because they use cloning technology for 80,000 years. They don't have sex organs. They don't know how to have children. They just do everything test tube and expect the soul family to come in. So many of their soul family are stuck here that they're not inviting because their soul family rules are so specific. So these societies are desperate. They're down to a few thousand of their species left. So they will use this underground smuggling network, which is the multidimensional beings, to get humans kidnapped off this world so they can harvest the DNA from them and the soul codes from them so they can save their species. Do I blame them? No. Do I blame them? They're trying to save their species. But at the same time, it's so one person can cause a pan-galactic viral outbreak. It's happened many times. But when you reach the desperation of the last of the species, you know, I can't blame them. I really can't. But we have to even stop that. When it was discovered how deep the corruption went, there was a Syrian Grey that I did a healing for in a galactic psychic surgery chamber. I'll just simply call it that. I was asked to come in. It was one of the first communications I had as an adult in the Galactic Historian concept. Out of nowhere, they said, I need your help. You are the only one that has the complete soul codes to this person. And he turned state's evidence against many, 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 many of the light beings. I mean, straight up turned state's evidence, and he needed what I had in me. So, because he was poisoned with a very special genetic poison that would not only eliminate him, but all of his future offspring from ever immigrating from other universes. He was also heavily invested into the Time War, so if he passes on in between a Time War, everything that he's done before is unraveled. So everyone's interlinked. So when you take a piece out, everything falls apart. And I came into this healing chamber, did the healing on him, and he went off to do the rest of his testimony, which is why in 2006 we didn't get our event.
Oh, wow.
Well, you had to fix out there, because if we would have been freed and there would have been corruption out there, they would have won. It's insidious how deep this goes.
Wow.
Absolutely insidious.
What else can you tell us about the depth of it?
The Syrian Grey Wars or the Orion Wars? Which one do you do? Massive ship battles.
Well, maybe what we'll do is when we come back from our break,
Yeah.
we can pick up with one or both.
Okay.
The Orion Wars and the Syrian Wars. And I also had a question about the Grey breeding programs. You did mention the Greys, and they have quite an extensive breeding programs with humans still going on.
Yes.
In fact, many of them are walking
amongst us.
Amongst us, right. So I wanted to find out about that too. So
Okay.
So stay tuned. We shall return. This is part 7, and it's Lance White with Andrew Bartzis. And we left off talking about we're going to talk about the Orion Wars or the Syrian Wars. And then another element that's been added into this have been all the nuclear explosions that have gone on to lower the density. So wherever you want to begin.
Let's start with the Orion Wars.
Okay.
The Orion species, are soul family to us. They were refugees here. We were refugees on their planet. They were both the good guys and the bad guys, and so were we both the good guys and bad guys. So to understand the wars is about how soul societies and races can be split up into factions that fight themselves. Now the string-pulling puppetry entities love this little game that they do. And the Syrian Grey, the Orion Wars, are all essentially massive puppetry wars to put soul families into war states or karmic resolution states with each other. The Orion Wars, when they came to a head in 2006, it was about the technological side versus the spiritual side. The spiritual side adopted some technology, the technological side refused all spiritual side. So you had the sides that were creating beings with no trees of life, creating clones that were just for warriors, and it was an affront to universal law.
Super soldiers also.
Super
right?
soldiers also. So they also began kidnapping people from other worlds because they would become the perfect ship engines. There are people that were taken because of the types of psychic energies that they have.
Okay.
They literally would take them out of their physical body and then implant them in the ship to be the drive. This was the other affront to what they were doing. The technological side didn't care about the sovereign free will of what they were doing. You were just a part with a number to them. That's it. That's all you were. When the wars came to a head, there were about 350 planets that were in the field of operation. The United Species that are enforcing the quarantine here are also battling the reptoids of the various, there's several dozen different versions of reptoids. The red-based reptoids are the ones we're functioning here with. These reptoids understood that Earth had its chance to extend out from 2006 to change the event date before the audit. So what they did was released, best way we'll describe it, a slave force over a span of several thousand worlds, and they just let them all go and created a massive refugee nightmare. No food, very little water, no technology, just left these trillions of people there and said, all right, good guys, go help those 7 trillion people. And then reamassed all their forces to break the blockade on Earth. At that point, 2006, there were reptoid vessels forcing themselves into the solar system. At the same time, the forces of light were trying to finish the last of the Orion Wars. Okay, so this is the field of battle, the entire scope. the Orion Wars, they mass invested their technological vessels, so there was a war with millions of ships invested into them, so that they can break the blockades that are around those worlds, because they had blockaded those worlds, so technology couldn't come out.
Mm-hmm.
So in part of the technological trades. When the Orion Wars finally came to an end, the last of the despots were taken off. They began to bring lots of people back to the galactic central sun for recyclement, but they had to deal with what the reptoids left over. That's why we didn't get our ascension in 2006, why we didn't get a graduating class. There weren't enough forces out there to do it. And they actually were able to break the blockade a number of times and get a significant amount of people off of our world, as well as the different DNAs.
Wow.
You know, I mean, I can go into individual battle descriptions. I really don't think that applies because it's pretty dark.
Mm-hmm.
And in this neutral perspective, I've experienced some very, very dark things. And it doesn't, how do I put this? It disgusts me at one level when I'm not in the quantum field and I'm not reading it, but when I'm in this level, I understand that it is information.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And it can easily put people in a fear state, and I don't want to put people in a fear state.
Right.
The wars were just as when Germany fell at the end, you know, and you had Hitler inside his bunker. The same thing was in the Ryans. They never thought they would lose. Ego to the last second.
Mm-hmm.
And they murdered many of their own people that were innocent.
Yeah.
You know, war is hell. War is not a nice thing. You know, I can describe the big battles out in space. You know, giant planet ships fighting giant planet ships, interdimensional mercenaries coming from other realms and other universes to be on both sides.
Wow.
You know,
Right.
we have groups like the Silver Legion.
Huh.
Have you ever heard of them?
No, I haven't.
Well, I'd advise people to look them up. They're an interdimensional force that basically arose during the very founding of domination and control that was separate of the forces of light that have been unified now. And they go around from world to world to world and teach people how to be attackers against a dominating and invading force. And then they will recruit high energy beings to come and function with them for a certain period of time. There are other groups that are very similar to them. I just chose them because they're doing an active role here right now. And that active role is being Dreamtime Defenders, Dreamtime Warriors. They're protecting people from the day terrors and night terrors that are going to be spread upon us.
So these are things that we need to be aware of and watch out for.
Yep.
And the more we can raise our awareness about this kind of information, the better off we are in terms of recognizing a situation as it occurs and neutralizing it.
Mm-hmm.
Not going into fear, not going into judgment, and using the proper tools to neutralize the effects of it. A lot of fear has been spread about on the internet about a coming galactic war, and it seems that that's one of the plans that's been in the hopper to scare the bejesus out of us, that there will be some kind of fake alien war, and then they'll bring out the good guys, which will actually be the
same guys
that have been pulling all the dirty tricks.
Mm-hmm.
So is that something that...
I think I call that Project Bluebeam.
Right,
Mm-hmm.
right.
Is that a happenstance? No. The vast majority of their plans have been neutered.
Okay.
They don't have the technology to use the mass Earth-based holograms to make a fake invasion. All that technology has been removed already.
Oh.
Also, the key players of those systems have been removed from the timelines.
Oh.
So they can't do the vast majority of those big fear things.
Okay.
But what they can do is propagate propaganda that makes a certain section of people so fearful that they can create a temporary destruction in their area.
Right.
A volcano, an earthquake. Though I am in this state of understanding that no big destructions will happen unless you create it in your local reality because of mass propaganda and fear, you know, carpet bombing that area.
Mm-hmm. What about us being in the asteroid belt? We've moved into a different section of the galactic plane.
That's science.
Okay.
And science is misinformed.
No, obviously, since they don't know how many planets we have around it.
The asteroid theory that they're referring to is a way to limit us so we can't see beyond the stars that they're telling us exist.
Right.
The visual patterns of the stars will begin to change. That's something else you'll see in the event, though. People that just look up and go, that should be the Big Dipper there. And there's a whole new pattern there. But not everyone will see it. It'll begin to spread and spread and spread because the reality is beginning to change. Star patterns will be different. And just looking up in the sky and seeing a star pattern from one you saw a million lifetimes ago will trigger you through your awakening process. And there will be people that find themselves experiencing the Orion Wars. They were on the ship and one of their multidimensional parts was there.
Wow.
And they look up in the sky and see the right pattern that lines up to the last thing that that soul saw before he died when his ship crashed into another one.
Wow.
And it all transfers back to the person here who's the avatar of the different pieces parts out there. We're the avatars here. Avatar meaning the master consciousness that allows parts of itself to gain sovereign free will to go out and experience life so multidimensionally we can expand and learn and love and live.
Okay. And the time frame for us doing that has pretty much been condensed. It's condensing because of the density. We're going through the period of density, but we just moved out of the period of greatest density, didn't we?
The heaviest density.
The heaviest density. So we should...
Just Mars and Earth are still on the dense side, and it's the sleep people that are keeping us anchored there.
Okay.
So the parts of our solar system that are in there are in the sine wave is expanding.
Okay.
And it's going to keep expanding and expanding until the polarity of consciousness forces this in. And that skip is what will be the first unified dream time experience instead of moment.
Okay.
The 21st of December was the first experience in 28,000 years. The first moment of infinity is way more intense. Okay? I mean, you've had experiences where you've experienced, you know, a consciousness expanding thing where you understood the infinite, and as soon as it was over, wow.
Right.
Okay?
Yes.
That's what the jump will be like.
Wow.
Where they go over the hill of the roller coaster.
Can't wait.
Put your arms up.
Right.
Nuclear explosions.
Yes.
When they started testing nuclear explosions, it wasn't a test. It was purpose. Everywhere there was a nuclear explosion, it was done on purpose to make interdimensional rifts or to kill hollow Earth-based entities or Earth-based entities that live in the astral realms. All the orbital explosions were meant to destroy whole incoming migration patterns.
Okay.
Completely eliminate them from the astral experience, and many of them can no longer function as energy beings and need to be brought to Venus to triage centers.
Wow.
Where literally soul triage centers can put the pieces parts back together one step at a time.
Isn't there also a factor that if there were enough nuclear explosions that went off on the Earth, that the Earth would be unable to continue functioning?
Correct. Also, if they had done that, they would have had full access to Hollow Earth, the Garthan network. The nuclear explosions, there's an actual website that shows each individual explosion from the 1940s on, and you'll see America has like 5,800 to France's 11 to Russia's 700. And it just shows you all over the world, explosion, and it tells you the altitude or the depth in the Earth. I advise everyone to go and use a search engine and find that little graphic of everyone going off. When you physically see that for yourself, you'll realize it's lined up to exactly the grids of Earth. What's the pyramid grid? The pyramid's on the Giza grid.
Right.
It all interacts with that energy.
Right.
All of those explosions are purposely in areas to inter-affect the grids of Earth.
Right.
And to lower consciousness, destroy consciousness. Also to create portals for smuggling off-world. We've been under a quarantine essentially since about 400 AD. Though the quarantine didn't have the amount of vessels it has now, it had just enough to prevent mass exodus of slave races to being sold off like they did previously. And there were times there were vessels that came in here and fought the existing vessels. back and forth. 1566, the big battle over Germany, they have that wood tablet.
Mm-hmm.
There was actually 250, 300,000 vessels involved in that, whole planet-wide, mass invasion. And, how do I put this? It changed consciousness then.
Mm-hmm.
And the system of domination and control needed to erase that. So they brought in the plague.
Ah.
They also brought in the plague to eliminate certain soul families that had a DNA lineage that already had a complete soul code. But all those people that died from the plague literally had a few seconds in the astral world to review their life, but they were forced back in.
Wow.
So they cleared the DNA that they didn't want, but kept the souls that they wanted.
Wow. That is really clever. Really clever. As George says, you have to give them
You have to give them credit.
For
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Gotta give them credit.
Wow.
They didn't miss anything.
No.
Didn't miss a thing.
And so when we see that there are things going on in the world, I've taken the perspective that there are no accidents.
Nope.
Especially when it comes to any negative event and anything that creates fear. It is all planned and scripted.
Absolutely.
At every level, from the the highest to the lowest. Now,
I have a little bit more about nuclear explosion.
oh yes, I was going to ask you.
When our scientists, how do I put this, began to experiment, even I think Rosenberg said, we're ending the world here.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
That's right.
They were in influence of off-world species, both positive and negative.
Yeah,
I
makes
have to get
sense.
that clear. Some of them were really good people and some of them were not. Okay, many of them came from Project Paperclip, Nazi direct over. They were all full party members and fully approved of everything that was going on in the final solution. Now, the Nordic race that is said to interact with them, that was a particular sect that was interfunctioning with those scientists because they ultimately knew that they had to go to America because of the timeline wars.
Mm-hmm.
They had to go there. So they brought the technology into the German structures because they were the only, how do I put this, people at the time that had the sentience to comprehend the technology that was being given to them. Because the science wasn't there for even the beginning of the understanding.
Mm-hmm.
But the telepathic communication could give them that, even though the person never knew it's being given to them. Given to them in doses so that they could create the technology, because after World War II you have a mass technological revolution.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you really think about it, we went from no plumbing and outhouses in the 1900s to 1930s to having solid state circuitry, and everybody had a radio in the 60s, 20 years.
That's right.
To having computers and cell phones in the 80s, to being in the social networking age and the internet age now. And where does technology take us now? It can't take us any further because the advertising industry has made so much money off of us. They have to show us the next level, but they can't at the same time. So, how do I put this? I'm trying to find the right linguistics that isn't limiting.
Okay.
We operate in human linguistics that literally limit our vibration by cadence and tone.
Mm-hmm.
I call this sacred geometry linguistics by design from the very beginning of our oral traditions that were meant to limit us.
Huh.
Quite literally.
Wow.
They've gone even to that level. The nuclear explosions affected so many of us still, like white sands. The granite that was there took the impression and is constantly radiating out into our grid. The ones in our atmosphere is constantly radiating out into our grid. Some of these chemtrails are meant to empower those spots where those nuclear weapons went off.
Wow.
So that they're constantly creating multidimensional portals so that they can bring in travelers from other dimensions or travelers from other timelines beyond the quarantine zone that's around us.
Mm-hmm.
This right now is the moment of smuggling. Like even as we speak right now, there's operations to prevent smuggling. These are people that have been kidnapped from their homes and have scientific experiments done on them, and they're going to be put into slave societies in other worlds.
Wow. just ordinary, everyday people like anybody that could.
Their genetics that makes them unordinary.
Ah, got you.
Or their soul makes them unordinary.
And of course, their soul can be removed from the container and
put into something
else. Yes, which is something that could happen to anybody.
Anyone. The Greys do that a lot. They make a Walmart of bodies. They pick out model 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9, and they just transfer their consciousness between it.
Yeah.
And at times they just transfer their consciousness from one ship to another, just like in a single moment. I'm just taking this clothes off and putting on another one.
Huh. Interesting. How many of the of the leaders that are existing today have been cloned? I've read that before. That just about everybody.
They aren't really cloned. They have to hold soul contracts.
Okay.
If you're in a government position, you are the holder of the soul contracts for the system of domination and control.
Right.
Somebody actually has to physically be the holder of those contracts.
Okay. Are they aware of that?
No.
Okay.
Most of them no. I mean, there are a few that are aware of it.
This is just an unconscious.
It's an unconscious. It's part of the way the system of spirit contracts were to keep domination and control in place. Okay. There has to be a contract. And if you never know about spiritual contracts, you'll never know you're even the holder.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
You got the Queen of England, a major holder of domination and control. The contracts that she holds keeps the kingships and lordships energy from time traveler enforced into this world. Why is there a God Save with the Queen song? Why is it coming here to America? We don't care about the British Queen. You know, she's a media icon for a reason, because her view has to always be in public, because the energy of our perception keeps this kingship concept going, and she's the sole contract holder for the religions that are stealing our consciousness.
Like the Catholic religion, and so on and so forth. So she's working very closely with the Vatican.
Correct.
And so they're basically working hand in hand, so to speak.
Yes, some can be considered knights or bishops of the chessboard. The queen isn't the queen of the chessboard.
Right. She's still part of the management.
She's part of the management.
Right.
But her say doesn't influence the Archon grid. And in fact, very few people in the world have any say over the Archon grid. And those would be the highest level of the banking families, the highest level of the controller families can speak to the Archon levels, but really have little influence other than whispering in their ear.
Wow. How do they communicate?
Dark rituals.
I
mean, it's ingrained into that concept.
Right.
To be a part of the domination and control, you have to have gone through those rituals many lifetimes. Yeah. So all of your sovereign free will is given to the domination and control system. That's where your pledge allegiance and oath to domination and control. There shall never be any other God other than the one, which is the one with domination and control.
Yeah. Yeah, and then, so the original God that's claimed to be the jealous God, the Jehovah and Yahweh and the rest of it, were those alien?
Those were aliens
entities
that were here to create propaganda.
And the God consciousness, the God script,
the God program,
the
God meme, whatever you want to call it.
And then now that energy is milked from
the praying people.
Right, exactly.
The Bible, I have to adjust this, there are good people in religion. The Bible was written by multidimensional beings who are leapfrogging through time, influencing each generation of people through each printing of it, so that you stay in that propaganda format. Revelations is a crock.
Oh, right.
It's part of the crap sandwich we all been eating.
Right.
All right?
Right.
It's to create fear.
Right.
The true Gospels, the true Gnostics, we are the gods. Okay? And the same Bible says God will only judge in equity. Equity is not blind justice. Equity sees all sides. Equity understands that even the dark forces are going to need to be forgiven. And for us light people who can't forgive, we solely suffer. And we prevent our ascension.
Right, that's a very good point.
We are the preventers of it.
That's a very good point.
If you can't forgive, you're preventing.
Right. Right, that's a really good point. And then that also ties into not judging either. Although there's a time for judgment and a time for righteous anger.
Correct. Righteous anger.
Yeah, we have to know when, and I would say those 15 beings
Your time is up. Your time is up. No more secrets.
Right, exactly. Let the skirt blow up.
That's right.
Now, the Nazi movement was brought over here by through Project Paperclip, and as we know, all these different scientists were installed in corporations and pharmaceutical industries.
As part of the time travel wars.
Probably Monsanto and the NASA, never a straight answer, and so on and so forth. So they are pretty pervasive, are they not? I've heard they have underground bases with technology that's beyond belief, and gold coming out there, literally coming out there.
They can manifest gold.
They can manifest gold, okay.
But our natural gold is the key. Our natural gold is what's used to encase DNA or humans that are being smuggled off the world.
Really?
Because it has the Earth's energy in it.
Oh,
It's
how
not a man-made
interesting.
crystal. It's a naturally made mineral, which is special when you find the right stuff.
Huh.
So all the gold that's been holding in the various vaults is not man-made gold, is not manifest gold, it's natural gold, because that's the value for the exchange for technology.
Oh, so how do they smuggle?
They essentially, if you have an individual human, they basically spray liquid gold onto them without harming them.
Wow.
So that they're protected from the interdimensional rift energies of breaking the smuggling, of making for a smuggler to function, they have to find a dimensional portal that was created by the multiple nuclear weapons in the upper atmosphere.
Okay.
So another smuggling vessel will target a galactic central sun somewhere else, and it'll use the soul codes to open up the galactic central sun to come directly to our sun, but at the same time increase their time value from a separate galaxy so that they come in as a super long sine wave. And as soon as the tip of the sine wave is in that dimensional portal, the dimensional protection grid that's on Earth detects smuggling, but it's so instantly that they can transport up and then be back out of reality.
Huh.
And the human body that's encased in gold is now protected by that dimensional rift. And every time these smugglers do a dimensional rift, they're killing hundreds or thousands of astral entities.
Huh.
It's a great violation to do that kind of smuggling.
Interesting. Wow. So there was something to the movie Goldfinger. that wasn't just a...
Soft disclosure.
Yeah, soft disclosure, yes. Wow. Huh. So now, well, there was another quick question I wanted to throw in here, because we haven't really discovered it or talked about it too much, and that was, what part do the angelics and the various angelic realms play? There have been stories about the Nephilim and the Elohim having created the earth, and there are also stories that they're part dark and part light. What is the true angelic story that's going on?
The angelics, you have to understand the system of angelics, the way we give them a pecking order,
Right.
is propaganda.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
So to give them a pecking order and a power order is to give away your power.
Okay.
True angelic beings won't violate your free will. True angelic beings are essentially the embodiment of ascended masters that are somehow related to your soul family.
Okay.
When we get into the concept of angelic beings, we have to go back to the founding of this universe, quite literally. The first light species that were spawned here by the Galactic, the universal prime creator who made the first galaxy, and then separated into second galaxy, third galaxy, fourth galaxy, and each time inviting souls from other universes to come and populate his galaxy or his universe.
Mm-hmm.
I say his, I'm sorry, if it's multi-everything. I'm just using that.
Okay.
So the first, second, third, fourth, and fifth migration pattern into this universe represents the angelic beings. They are the oldest beings that began with our universe. There was a big wave of angelic beings who left our universe out of free will, and another wave came in, and then the older ones came back, and the younger ones left. And many times, the ones that left took on the names of the ones that were leaving, the new ones coming in. So it really isn't the same being.
Okay.
One would leave, another would take its spot. One would leave, another would take its spot.
Okay.
So the angelic beings are good people. They're light beings. But there is the opposition to them, which are the demonics.
Right.
And the demonics were also invited in here by the Universal Prime Creator, because
Really?
one cannot exist without the other.
Ah.
Light cannot exist without the dark. This is a free-willed universe. That's where they put the sacred neutral beings. These are other types of angelics that can be both angel and demon at the same time.
Right.
Or neither angel or demon.
They balance.
Right.
Right.
Light can't exist without dark, and dark cannot exist without light. So the angelic and demonic wars of the Bible are propaganda,
Right.
but there is a spark of truth in it.
Yeah.
Because they did battle in the beginning, but it was meant to battle. And after a while, they began to ascend onto worlds and become ascended masters. It's not dissension, the descending of Lucifer. It is ascension into a lower form to create more consciousness, more life expanding. So the universe's consciousness, total potential consciousness of sentience, is constantly expanding. The universe stops expanding if there's a retraction of consciousness.
Today is Sunday, the 23rd of June, 2013, and it is a super full moon. We're here at Stewart Mineral Springs at the foot of Mount Shasta, and we're still continuing with our journey about the galactic history.
That's right.
And my name's Lance White, and I'm talking to Andrew Bartzis,
How you
the
doing,
galactic
Lance?
historian.
Nice
Welcome.
to
Back,
Thank
forward,
you.
and in between.
That's right, one day later.
One day later, but it seems like an eternity could have passed.
But in that eternity, we've seen so many things happen. As I've been calling before for the 21st, that they were going to go ahead and slime the internet with psychic parasites, and we witnessed it here.
Yes.
We witnessed it here.
Yes. Yes.
Our own eyes. One particular person, it came in through her cell phone, and simply made her, we'll just say, very incapable of dealing with her own energies. And then it went from one person to another, to another, to another, until finally somebody was able to recognize what it was and kick it out.
Right, right. And the way that this worked was when it came through the cell phone, she wasn't getting reception, so she had to. The program was
to go get reception.
Yeah,
which means she had to walk away from the hotel,
right,
down the road, where she got a hitchhiker.
A hitchhiker
that was waiting,
and that created some enormous problems. And some physical upheavals, and that entity actually shifted into other people, and they could feel it.
Yep.
Physically as kind of a crab-like thing, grabbing onto the stomach, and then each person subsequently got sick, had to go through their own clearing processes of healing, moving it, removing, and then
and there were an army of healers here waiting.
Yes, yes. So healing, being a healer, is a very important aspect of what's coming up, and this points out the importance of understanding how the matrix works and how the dark side is using demonic energies and attacking and a whole host of situations that can come through the technology.
Well, we were talking on an earlier episode, 65% of our population is ready to graduate. Now, this is something we were talking about off camera.
Right.
And you wanted to know numbers. 65% of us are literally just waiting for the cap and gown ceremony.
Yeah.
So the rest of those 65%, that those people are the ones that are one step away from graduation. So all this extra time they're getting now is to finish their graduation, be a part of the total graduating class. Because once you're out, you're instantly replaced with another soul who's been waiting for a very long time. Okay?
Okay.
So there'll be this mass migration out. The new souls will come in, but the people that are out will have their avatars will have left Earth and taken a home avatar somewhere else. But then they'll be able to be fully multidimensional and can have 100 parts of themselves still on Earth doing projects they want to do, so that they would say, I've never left. Because they sent a sovereign part of themselves to do something, complete a mission, teach something to the new generation. And the Atlantis and Lemuria both fell because technology that was passed from one generation to the next generation was abused, because there wasn't the same unity in generations. Where we have to solve that problem now. We are the ones that must make sure our generation and then the 7 future generations understand the technology and don't misuse it. And then those 7 generations are responsible for the 7 generations after.
So our graduation is imminent.
It's as imminent as a no moment of no time.
Okay, and then it seems like it will seem as if we're still here.
You'll be in a dream.
Okay.
And you'll wake up in a dream going, I was just walking. And from there you'll have to decide what you want to do in the dream. If you're in a fear state, well, it'll be a fear state.
Yeah.
And a fear created in a dream.
Yeah. So you don't want to shift out of this vibration and move into fear.
Correct.
So it's really important to be able to be fully present to all things that are occurring without any fear, with fearlessness. So the drama, anything that creates drama is part of the fear process.
Right. And then there's the side that's the purgative value of being in no time dream to deal with what's making you free, what's making you in fear. So when they finish that concept, they'll realize the other part of the world there, that the event part of the world, they were just on pause. And they'll have to determine if that pause keeps them out of the time stream link of being, how do I describe this, 24 time zones around the world, 10 cat plus calendars. They won't be linked to a calendar system. So to them, 6 months could have traveled by, or 6 seconds, or no time whatsoever. It'll be how much the Dreamtime event took them out of the constraints of our time definition, because that's essentially what the event is breaking us of, is this social agreement on time.
Yes, that's really important.
That's how it happens.
Yeah, yeah.
Once your stream of this consciousness of Earth-based 3D matrix time is you know, when you used to cut triangles and X's inside papers and open them up.
Yeah,
that's what we're going to do consciously.
So essentially, it is in a sense tracking the Mayan calendar, that we are moving into unity consciousness and a golden age, quote unquote. But the difference being in this time frame, or in this timescape, that in the past ages where there's been a lessening of the densities, the sine wave has stretched out, there has been no graduation. So then it's contracted and expanded, but there haven't been any graduating classes in
38,000 years.
38,000 years. So, for instance, what's happened with Sirius and some of the other planets, that
their graduation is held up by ours.
So, is this really the big plug in the drain?
It's the cork on the champagne bottle.
Oh, okay.
Everyone wins.
Okay.
Everyone gets their ascension codes.
Okay.
Because if you're here, it's finishing the global ascension code. So all beings have the property. All beings on the graduating timeline that have proven their graduation get the code to leave.
Okay, and that means that we have access to 7 universes, and there are 11 others that we have not accessed at yet. Correct. But we have access.
But they have access. Those others have access to us.
Okay.
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 So we will then go out to look for them.
Ah, so this is like the explorer race.
Yes.
I think it was David Shapiro wrote about that. Wrote a whole series called the
Explorer
Race. Yes, and they're wonderful books.
Yes, wonderful books.
Yeah. So that's what our destiny, and the illusions will drop for us. For the 65%. And then that's when you said that we will be able to develop or become familiar with the spiritual technology of being multidimensional and being anywhere, so that we can...
Many people will get something that just looks like a desk, an office chair,
right,
and a monitor, and a second room that's right next to it. It looks like a relaxation room. The desk and the monitors for the 3D Matrix U to learn to create third eye visual or hologram room. The recreation room is to you to learn it without doing it with the technology.
Wow. So we will have. How will this technology? How will that be provided? Is that by a higher?
The technology that's waiting to be given to us simply because we are going to complete soul codes just by allowing us to physically meet, and that for them is
Wow.
huge.
And we'll be able to converse with each other. I mean,
Correct.
we'll be able.
In my opinion, what I'll do, I mean, I will offer events for the galactic families to come to Mount Shasta,
Wonderful.
and offer humans to come there at the same time and intermeet them in a ceremony.
Wow, I'm getting
Where we all
chills.
can get along.
Oh, I'm getting chills. And then, of course, you've got the beings of Telos and the rest
All
that
of
can
them
then,
within there too can come in
and we can meet.
meet
A
for the first
meeting
time.
of the minds.
Of the soul family minds.
Yeah, wow, that is so wonderful. And then we will be, you said that we'll have the opportunity, if we so choose, and people will have different choices available to them.
Oh yes.
But in our development of this technology, 25 years may pass for us, while those who don't graduate, who are not ready, are still in dream time, working on the technology, and we'll have an opportunity to place an avatar.
Well, there'll be many people who go fishing for loved ones caught in those dream worlds, and that will be service to the Earth's dream time, because you're choosing to be a healer. You're gonna insert yourself into that reality, knowing it's fake, and do
Right.
whatever you can do to get that person to
But we
finish
won't
waking
be
up.
stuck there like we feel like we are now.
You can go in and out of it as
Like
you
we
want.
have to incarnate
Right.
through the archontic grids and
Right.
with
Yeah, that's gone.
Okay, so that is being replaced,
Yes,
and that is all part of the shift
correct.
or the ascension process.
Once you take the incarnation grid completely out, back into the control of Earth, the greasy oil, the wheels greased.
Right, and that's another question I wanted to ask you. Originally, how did the organic process of incarnation work through the earth before it was corrupted?
It was a free will incarnation pattern that everything was done through spiritual cord of equity that the earth oversaw. So you would have one family lineage, soul family lineage, another soul family lineage, another soul family lineage. If this soul family lineage had a dispute amongst itself, it would go to the earth consciousness to read the Akashic record in total to give a judgment in neutrality for that single soul family.
Wow.
If two soul families came together, they contracted Earth to look at all of them and to figure out the issue. That's how they did that.
So Earth has been basically dominated and controlled, and
Taken
taken
away
out
because our genetics were changed in such a way that we no longer had the proper thing for the user manual of the human body.
And is that when the 15 families?
Well, it began before the 15 beings, because
There were-
ultimately, even the other two big light and dark forces that were trying to go after Earth before the beings came in understood the importance, but the 15 beings were smarter than these other ones
Huh.
and weaseled their way in and locked them out.
Wow. Wow. But it wasn't through through our invitation to experience duality and hardship.
No.
It was basically, well, this looks like a good situation. Let's see how we can outsmart them. And they
Yeah,
did.
And they did.
And the 15 families that are operating at what dimensional existence?
6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th.
Okay, so that tells us a lot. And then the archons, which are in control of the mind control and the incarnational process,
They're the ones that oversee the courts now, where Earth doesn't oversee the courts anymore.
Earth has been completely taken out of the
court
system. Where is Earth residing?
Suppressed.
Suppressed.
That part of her will is suppressed because our race doesn't know how to create courts of equity, spiritual courts of equity.
And it's been
because it's taken away by when our oral traditions were taken away.
And the indigenous tribes were murdered intentionally and replaced with
All the pipe holders too.
and the courts that we presently have.
Because the pipe was the presence of the court. So when they shared a pipe in court and in council, that pipe was could be psychometry, could be used on it to prove that there was a court with Earth, and that would be why the pipe holders were taken. And all the warriors, all the peace makers, all of them.
Yeah. And so what we have today, as of this moment, is multiple warring factions of the 15 families that
Fighting themselves internally, and fighting the other ones externally. And then trying to influence each one internally and fight each one externally.
And that
they're in each other's game.
and do they know the extent?
They've known known that it was coming,
Right.
but they all have their secret projects.
Right. So they all right. So and that's all going to.
That's all going to happen at the same time.
Okay. So
They all have to show their cards.
Okay.
It's a poker game right now.
Okay, and there's a moment at which you've upped the ante, you've upped the ante,
yeah.
and okay, what do you have? And you can't,
Exactly.
you have no choice but to show your cards.
Yeah.
Will we be involved in the understanding of the process of? We will. So how will we see that manifest on the planet?
It's going to be once consciousness awakes and realizes graduation is
inevitable.
Inevitable. Okay. And it'll happen fast for those who want it to happen fast. Slow for those that want it to happen slow.
So you step on the accelerator of your own consciousness.
Exactly.
Yeah. And if you're going too fast, you simply step on the brakes.
Or get on the off ramp.
Right. You be diverted by whatever. It lowers your vibration.
Or the truck stop, whatever.
Right. We have somebody here that is a truck stop for the oil industry.
Yep, for the oil
that will all have to go away too, right? Because the strength.
Those people in those jobs, their jobs will be to travel the world. That's their new job.
And what will be done with the technology that's already existing? Will that be just simply scrapped under
the energy will be changed.
It will, yes, because it's been used for dark purposes and it's been kept
its
in.
energies will be unmanifested, cleansed, and then remanifested into Earth's consciousness, because that's Earth consciousness energy that she's provided as background material.
And then she will be making an appearance, being manifest.
She will manifest herself to take over all physical transactions between people.
Oh, wonderful! So there will be a true energy exchange, not a fake monetary system of control and domination.
There will be a true energy exchange system that will be in complete transparency, because it's the Earth's sentience that is the judge of it.
Yeah, I've seen that. I've seen that happen. I mean, I've seen it in my mind's eye, so I know that and that's why I get so frustrated with the system not collapsing, because I can see the potential for what's coming. It seems like it's just around the corner, and then it never arrives. It's like a carrot and a stick, It's like, okay, there's a whole banking system waiting to be rolled out. Now, somebody talked about that tonight, the banking...
I don't think there's even going to be an intermediary banking system.
So
I think personally, there's enough people that are awake,
right,
and there's enough people who are asleep, who are starving.
Yes,
that they'll be far more receptive.
Yes, and that's all the result of the control
and that will make the event travel faster, because those people were starving and have food and consciousness exploring devices and homes.
Right, and it could be an instant transmutation
for weeks.
Right, weeks.
I mean, and then their culture has to survive the change.
Right.
Because there'll be elderly that won't use the technology, or just is not in a conscious state to even begin to try, and they'll need to be healed enough till they can use the devices.
Is it possible that many will depart, through physical death, and then simply...
Some will just get it and unmanifest the body. They won't. They're just done.
Will people that literally disappear from view?
No.
It will be more like everything will be...
People will be present, and they'll take their last breath.
Okay.
And the body, they'll leave.
Okay.
And when they're ready, they can send another part back.
Huh.
Not to the dead being. It's just another being that can project and exist there.
What part will walk-ins play?
As people graduate, as soon as you graduate, there's somebody who takes your place. There's going to be such a big graduation here, and then a new incoming of spirit. The graduating class is going to create free-willed perversions of itself that go back to Earth to teach the new people coming in.
Free will versions.
Free will versions of itself in a free will, total Earth free will environment.
Okay. All right.
This is what the Pleiadians, Assyrians, all of them, they're doing to us now. They're projecting energy to us so that we can finish this change, so that they can finish their changes too.
Because they're all held up, right?
Held up.
And in fact, the Greys are held up. The whole ascension process is held up by this bottleneck that's been created by the 15 families and the resulting time wars and the problems that those have
created. Think of it as Earth is pregnant right now, and this migration away is the finishing of the pregnancy.
So it really is giving birth.
Yes.
Will there be a physical Earth as we know it?
Yes.
But it will be transformed, yes, because of
The event is essentially the afterbirth and the placenta.
oh, it could be messy, but no worse than what we have now,
Right.
which is this
At
abundant.
least we're not getting a C-section.
Oh, ooh, yeah, and there won't be any drugs involved.
Some people might want them.
Right. Well, you know, there's mushrooms and other
Yeah.
things that people like to do. So, okay. So the 65% are ready, and then there will be a percentage that will be in dream time, but they will be searching for their. They will be. We will be able to assist them in a sense, like an ascended master. I don't like to use that term.
There will be ascended masters here
Okay.
in the air cities, in
Oh.
the dream worlds. In the physical world that your avatar is still residing in is your manifested reality, which will be based on the local realities of the first people who realize they're awake. And then the local realities will shift as people go and live with their soul family.
Oh, right.
So the Earth literally is going to change as people begin to filter to their right places.
Right, right. So all this will be happening simultaneously.
Well, there has to be the graduation party, cabin
Okay.
down ceremony, graduation party, meet your soul family.
Okay.
So and synchronicities happen everywhere, and everybody finishes it, and poof, you're in the air.
And how long will the graduating party last?
As long as you want it.
Oh, wonderful. So there could be a few years anyway, of people recognizing each other as soul family. And now there's a slight little problem in that the 15 families that have created this big mess are also part of our soul family.
That's right, the rotten part.
Right. So what do we have to learn how to recognize? What do we do with the parts of our soul family that need to be exorcised or removed?
We aren't the ones that are going to be doing the mass removal.
Oh, thank you.
Okay? We're not at the state that our consciousness is unified enough
Right.
to truly understand
Right.
the depth, the breadth, what they've done.
Right. I mean, we've just barely touched upon it, and then we were.
Without help, we would have never even known we're erased with amnesia.
Right. 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 So then. There will be a percentage of new souls that have come in that will just continue in a higher dimensional reality.
Well, it'll
Cleaner.
be fourth, and the effects of third will still be there, but the people that come in will change and alter the Earth in such a way that it becomes more multidimensional, so that the Earth can return to its seventh dimension, the galactic seed planet status.
And so the graduation includes moving to the seventh dimension, basically.
No, up one.
Up one.
It has to go up one at a time because the new consciousness comes in,
Okay.
and then that remaining consciousness that didn't graduate the first time graduates. A whole new one comes in. The monkey cage gets cleaned out.
Oh, so where did the 65% end up? Is that what we're talking about?
When we graduate, the 65%, you return home to your original soul planet.
Okay. And that'll be different for each
and every one of us.
But we could have multiple. So could we? Well,
multiple. You can have multiple.
You can have
many of you will, and you'll make a choice. How many parts do you want to make?
Oh.
And where does your avatar want to go?
And that could be any dimension, right? That's pretty much
planet where you're still going to function. You got to finish your galactic version. You're the micro that has just become the macro.
Okay, so
now you must go learn the macro world.
So when we're talking about moving to ascending to a fifth dimensional vibration, where the graduating class might quickly shift through fourth.
And go right to sixth, go to fifth and a quarter.
Okay,
right.
Okay, but it'll be wherever we feel
Necessary.
most comfortable and where our vibration matches, where our vibrational fit. But it'll be a win-win situation, right?
Yes.
Because we will all have graduated wherever we end up, and we'll also be able to communicate with each other.
Yes, never lose communication.
And never have to go through that horrible, feeling of fragmentation and isolation and all that other stuff that's been going on for millions of years.
Yeah.
Good. Now, this attack that I witnessed, and I've never seen. I've read about so many different forms of psychic and demonic attacks over the years, but this was really a living demonstration. So we're to expect this to be occurring because the 15 families are ramping up
They're paying overtime to their franchises
to
operate under data mining for physical understanding of the people so they can pass off the dossier of the people to the influencer groups.
and there are whole layers of control that
And
that
they
function.
target you based off of your soul family. So
Ah.
they're preventing you from eating soul family. On the other end, there are those that are just to create drama so groups fall apart,
Right,
which was what happened here.
which is what
It
happened.
was a
here.
drama entity.
Yes, yes. So one thing that we need to watch out for is anything that creates drama. You can almost instantly know that that is some form of the.
The harder core drama. I mean, there's light
Right.
core drama that's not.
Well,
that's
right,
dead.
right,
Yeah.
There's life and death drama.
Yeah.
You know, there's somebody up here whose husband is in jail who's a super soldier.
Yep.
And you know, that story has been circulated in other radio shows.
Mhm.
But there are millions of those out there, and then there are millions of targeted individuals, which is something
Exactly.
that's just
And they're
being
targeted for many reasons.
so. And then we're all living under under the blanket,
Under the eye.
under the eye, almost like the Tolkien's The Ring trilogy.
That's right.
Yeah, very similar to that, isn't it? And in fact, he
Very
studied this whole situation, and yeah, exactly. So it is like the eye. Well, okay, that seems like a good place for us to take a short break.
Okay.
In part 8, and then we'll pick it up when we get back and continue in part 9.
Right.
All right.
Awesome.
Thank you, Andrew. Back. This is part 9 of our Galactic History. I'm Lance White with Andrew Bartzis.
Hey.
Now, we were talking about the ascension process, and one of the things that you've been talking about is the importance of dream cities.
Correct.
And that's different from the air cities that Lemuria created. A dream city.
Sort of.
Okay.
The
What is
old
it?
Lemurian air cities will become our new dream cities, because an air city is a group of sentients that put their energy together. The unmanifested body put their their energies together and made a functional vessel, reality, drive, energy vehicle, and it can be anchored in the space in between air molecules in the North Pole, so there can be a tremendous amount of them there. The dream cities specifically are places that were created by ancestors in a specific spot that of the sentience of Earth that says this DNA lineage, all of those members may dream into this realm or dream into this realm. The air cities will exist in technically all of the dream realms when you're ready to ascend to the highest layer of that realm to meet the highest layer of your ancestors in that line.
Wow, so it could be a multi-dimensional process.
It is all multidimensional.
Okay.
Nothing is single dimensional.
Right,
anymore.
so you could be in the 9th and the 5th and the...
The beginning is about connecting to your ancestors physically with our star brothers and sisters.
Okay, good.
And then dream time, the soul family versions of them, the ones you recognize from all the other lifetimes.
Okay, so when people are concerned, there's a big movement for disclosure. The ascension process is the ultimate disclosure because you're actually moving back to your family, your soul family of origin, which is all the different galactic
Correct.
that you have.
And then the ones that are in Hollow Earth that are the ones that are our next door neighbors.
Ah, right. So
And we'll have to meet the neighbors pretty quick.
ah, yes. Now, are there plasma beings below too?
Oh yes.
Okay, and so there are probably numerous
There's
sentient.
Numerous that we have not even begun to comprehend yet.
And are they all also independent of our?
There's many reflections inside Hollow Earth. There's dinosaurs in there because they didn't die out. They just became an ancestor spirit for other animals.
Huh.
Okay.
Okay.
It all is reused and recycled.
So there, any species that's extinct
Is there.
Is there. Nothing really dies. Everything
It
lives,
just moves
is
on to a
eternal
different
and
dimension.
infinite. Okay. And so death is the same way. It's just
Correct.
a transition from one dimension to another, or from a limitation of dimensions to unlimited. Unless you're being recycled through the archontic
grid, and then you don't get to that all the other wonderful stuff. You just get put right back in,
and your memory is erased on top of it.
Because
so
that's the rules of our world.
Those are the rules of our world, which was supposed to be free will, and currently is.
Well, it's supposed to be 100% free will with no memories. So that was its intention.
And it's become more like
virtually no free will,
and then very few memories, if any.
Very few memories, if any.
And closing. And so the ultimate game for those who would play God, or who want to be the victors, would be total enslavement of the species.
Correct.
Permanently, without the need for expending large amounts of energy on maintaining them.
Right, because they can just take it from us.
Right, and so they're using our energy. Do they get energy from source as well?
No.
So we are their source.
We are their source, on purpose. When they wanted to go after service to self-ascension, these are the 15 multidimensional beings. When they decided they would do that, they were a little mafia. And that little mafia agreed that the big date is here, way, way, way in the future. We're way, way over here. Let's work together for the first 12 million years. And then after that, it's anyone's game.
Okay.
They did. They agreed to work together for that long of a time to set this up.
Which is right now.
Which is right now.
But if they're working to set it up, they must be pretty certain that they've won.
No, they mostly know they know. They've lost. But they have so many parts of themselves that have so much ego from being in domination and control,
right.
They're not even perceiving they've lost yet. So essentially the hive mind that has given sovereign free will to be dominating species has lost its sovereign control over those sovereign entities.
Plus then you have the rogue elements, and then you have each of the 15 having cards up their sleeves.
And then you put the walk-ins into them.
Oh yeah, right. So it's anybody's game. Now,
exactly.
You said also that there is a Council of 12 that oversees
Council of 12 energy beings.
Okay.
And they're the ones that sit on the spiritual courts of equity to make sure soul families can't resolve issues.
Okay, and since Earth has been removed from the process,
blocked by technology,
then the system has been taken over and corrupted. So, and as you said, several of those members were kicked off, and so currently
locked in.
Currently, what's the current status of the Council of 12?
I can't actually tell you the number of the ones that are walking. It would be right, because they know, but there are people that know, and then there are people that just shouldn't know.
Okay, gotcha. but it's in the process of being.
Yes, a number of
the
them
equity is being
A number of them have been replaced, as well as their henchmen, minions, everything in their line.
And it seems like a good chess move would be to not let those that have been playing with you know that you've walked in. You're there, and you're still the same controller that they've always known.
There's no difference because you hold all the contracts.
You hold the contracts, and of course, you pick up all the information and the memories and everything else, the cellular, so on. Do they have cells?
Yes.
Okay. So they have a physicality of sorts, or could have.
The main Council of 12 doesn't actually have bodies, though they can use an octopus system to go into multiple entities to issue controls to the system.
Ah. So how do they? Okay.
They're puppets. They do puppetry of people.
So they're not really necessarily looking out for the ascension process, and it's all been, that part has been corrupted as well.
Correct.
Okay, now who oversees the Council of 12?
No one, but
Nobody?
The Prime Creator. It was his final deadline. They had free will to do that until the deadline.
And the deadline is when?
Passed already, March 20th to the 22nd.
Okay.
Management reshuffle.
Okay.
We had timeout, management reshuffle.
Okay.
Now after the 21st, time on, game's on.
Okay, so it's going to be gloves are off.
Fighting with themselves internally and externally.
Right, because the way
as people come out and start telling their truth.
And that's going to be an interesting process. and that will definitely hit the news. So the news will
It'll be a multi-dimensional game of whack-a-mole. This one comes up, no whack. This one comes up, whack. This one comes up, whack. 15 come up, oh, where do I hit first?
Sounds like fun. So we will see in short order, within my lifetime, and for sure, the collapse of the control of the media.
Correct.
The controls by the church.
The church will be spectacular.
Oh, yes.
They hold a lot of cards. And think of it as a game of poker.
Okay.
You got to show your... we got a friendly moth coming through.
Hello.
It's a multi-dimensional moth.
Right. It's blessing us. Healing.
Think of it a game of 7-card Texas Hold'em poker. And it's everyone's got to show their hands. So there's 1,000 people at the table. The first guy to show his hands shows tens and jacks.
Okay.
Pretty good. So the 999 other people out there that are there have to show their cards too and beat that.
Oh my God. And then once the first domino falls, it'll be like V for Vendetta.
Correct.
You know, and what will precipitate that first domino falling? Because as I see it, as I've seen it,
dreams first.
Okay, dreams first. Okay.
Dreams at the kid level, dreams at the adult level, dreams at the senior citizen level. Because they'll have to be woken up differently.
Oh.
Okay.
Right.
A senior citizen and a kid, big difference between the two.
That's right.
Plus the ages and vibrations they grew up in. So as that first wave comes and the kids and the senior citizens suddenly see eye to eye, and the adults are trying to look into two directions instead of one, you have a time for the separations of generations, because our media has made us one amalgamation generation. So we have to, that's one of the first separation of densities.
So
there will be elderly that realize they're a kid,
that
are their young spirit,
right,
and they'll revert their age.
Oh, nice.
Okay.
Nice.
There'll be kids who realize they're much older and will age very fast. And then there'll be the middle adults who determine if they're going to be the new elders,
right,
or if they're going to try for the process to get out. So they got their choices: teaching or learning.
Wow. And that will all be service to all, or service to others.
Well, service to self will take on a whole new meaning. Healing yourself is healing the whole.
Right. But the whole element of only self-service was the part that will be
correct. The selfishness part of it,
right?
And the consumerism and the monetarism all we have no purpose.
So that means also a collapse of Wall Street and the banking system.
Well, collapse
of some sort, a transformation.
Let's look at collapse as the linguistics, because this is one of the tricky parts that I, as the interpreter of the Akashic record, have to repeat into a linguistics that's meant to limit you consciously, meant to limit you at intonation. When we say, because this is a buzzword, the collapse of the financial system, collapse is, for me, the intonation behind it is fear.
Right.
It is fear.
It is fear.
But when you look at collapse, there are other ways to use it. You can say collapsing a timeline, which is allowing to revert to normal. There's so much data behind the stock market system, even though it's completely rigged. There's always been a sentience in the up and down, and they use these predictive models based off of our DNA scans and the etheric satellites that are up there that can basically give you a computational model of what all of the sentience on a given section of a county or a state is, and then they can look at all of those and make a bar and a chart of all the consciousness changes that are going on each day as the sun goes around and around and around, and they can make a predictive model of how much sentience is growing or ascending.
And then make adjustments accordingly.
Correct.
And is a large part of that the artificial intelligence network?
Yes. It functions with the etheric satellites, and then the artificial intelligence networks create cells that interpret the data at the human level, human psychic interactor level.
And they can be faked out, right?
Correct.
Artificial intelligence. It doesn't necessarily recognize irony or humor.
It runs programs to put you into fake realities.
Okay.
Which leads to the question you were asking, how do we know we're not going into a false reality?
Right. During this ascension process, how can we know?
You go to the North Pole and you communicate with the entity of Earth.
Okay.
And you align your citizenship as a galactic citizen of Earth.
So that's where Santa Claus is. It actually, there is a Santa Claus.
The Santa Claus.
So, and we align ourselves with the sentience of Earth, which some people like to call Gaia Sophia.
Correct.
So
It'll have a very motherly and fatherly feeling at the same time. And you'll meet it in your dream times. Everyone will.
Okay.
And you'll have vision from it. Now, there'll be many in the religious scenarios that will have a tough time adjusting to that, but that's their healing. And then there'll be others that don't want to connect to the sentience of Earth because there was another planetary sentience that is before Earth. Those are refugee souls.
Ah.
The refugee souls that are here that aren't going to accept spiritual adoption, they'll have opportunities to finish what it is that they need and then go through a local stargate on the surface so their consciousness leaves and goes direct to the consciousness of the planet they're going to. And that's the two planets form a chord of equity and allow the two spirit families to interact so that the one can get out of this reality and go to the other without having to finish their contracts.
Oh. Now, are there going to be those who simply want no part of any light or ascension process
There
at all?
will be those, because you know what? The light trapped them here too. The light didn't make it easier.
Right,
Okay, they made many mistakes. They became zealots.
Right,
Okay? And then there were others that didn't become zealots, and we're trying to keep the balance.
Right. So what happens to those people? Just to continue?
They will get new lessons, because once we grow, all those beings that came to help us here grow too, and there'll be parts of those societies that are growing that will leave behind other parts of itself.
Okay. So some of the cards that will be put on the table at some point will be the
royal flush.
Yeah, right.
Somebody will have the royal flush.
Right, and that will expose the royals, the Vatican, the mafia, the government,
the queen, the jack,
the black government, all of it, right?
And the ace.
And so, but we'll get to see these hands as they're revealed. And will that, I guess in a sense, that is kind of a sequential process.
Very sequential.
Because one literally has to be placed down.
In an information age.
Right. Yeah, and so in a sense that's a linear.
It's only linear for those that want to watch it linear.
Okay, that makes sense.
There's others that just want to know what the results are.
Right.
They're not going to
just
be
give me the
long.
final score.
So that's it. Give me the
Just
stats.
put one.
Exactly.
I'm out of here. Okay.
Who's
good.
going back to be recycled and who's not?
Okay. And then how many players are there at this point that are holding cards? Would you guesstimate? Could have a major stake in this outcome.
Do you want me to separate it into individual avatars or all their pieces, parts interfunctioning?
Do both.
If it's all of their piece or parts interfunctioning, about 65 million.
Okay.
If it's just down to the avatars, about 17 million.
Okay. So those are the ones that
would be removed.
Okay. Good. And then they're removed to a court of
spiritual court of equity, overseen by the Earth, with the other galactics, universes, and galaxies in council as the equity court.
Okay. So there is quote unquote justice at some point.
Justice being the human limiting word, because justice is blind. And there's linguistics behind it, but there will be equity.
Equity, right.
Yeah,
and so
equity.
All of the deeds of the errant kids
will be read from the Akashic record.
And there will and all sentient life will be able to
learn from that record.
And then to make a decision as to what happens to those beings. Mm-hmm. And I think you pointed out earlier that one option is the second death, which is
going back,
returning to right, and that just is a process of losing your memory. So they could technically get a dose of what they've been dishing out
in another domination and control world. Correct.
So they will come out under domination and control.
They will be a part of the system. Made into management, and then they will be given the choice to undo the management and give the world its freedom. So they will go right back into what they were doing with the choice to end it somewhere else.
Oh, so that's kind of a.
So they would heal their karma and that species.
Can they renege on that? Would that be one trick that could be pulled at that?
They wouldn't renege.
No?
No,
Okay.
because even if they reneged, they got taken out once. What would stop them being taken out again?
Well, right. What would be the point of delaying the inevitable?
Exactly.
Yeah, and... Yeah.
Once they got you, they got you. And if they're giving you a choice in the free-willed universe,
Right.
make it.
Right.
Make it or don't.
Right.
Ego's going to determine if they don't.
And then and so those that don't are just basically undone, recycled. Okay, good. I got that. And
We'll have to forgive a lot of them.
and a lot will continue on, and because they're part of our soul family.
Right.
And a lot will make the choice to
Right.
heal and correct the mistakes that were.
Right. Just because Uncle Mary or Uncle Bob was a bad brother doesn't mean that Cousin Joe is.
Right, right, and that brings up a couple of things that we have to be very careful about judging others, but we also have to allow our anger and our judgment to occur.
Correct.
Because we have to be able to discern what is a corrupt influence that's no longer useful to a healthy society.
Once the etheric satellites are taken out, we will really look back and realize how much psychic influence they had over our world. I told you about the predictive modeling. The etheric satellites give a whole new layer to the predictive modeling.
How do they work? And who put them there?
The control rooms operate etheric satellites.
Okay.
And that's the way that the control rooms observes all the DNA level changes of the society, of every being that's there, and all that's put into data, and that data can be searched for in different terms. If they're looking how a species is consciously advancing or learning about its body, they can individually locate in different areas of a county or look at the entire world as a single
Right.
graph.
Right.
And when they see the entire world as a single graph, little things that they do can change the way the graph turns out. So with the use of these etheric satellites and with the use of the other instruments of the government arms.
So the government is complicit in putting those things there.
It is just part of the machine,
Right.
and it's complicit with the concept of the machine at the highest levels.
Okay.
Though many in the Congress and the Senate don't know, but they've been mind controlled to not care.
Right. Right. Right.
Okay?
Right. Yeah, that's pretty obvious.
Because they don't.
Right. They don't care, obviously.
And the
Yeah.
ones that do privately clear, this is your chance to make a difference. Put up or shut up. If not, get off our world.
So they're really being given an ultimatum too, because it's not business as usual.
Correct.
It's a time when conscience is really going to have to be allowed to manifest, and those
And
who
open as a blossom in the sun.
yes, yes, and those who want to bloom and blossom will, and the others will
Go back to seed.
Yeah, well, that's kind of like that parable,
Mhm.
the seeds being scattered and all that. Speaking of parables and things that came from ancient texts and Bibles, according to Barbara Marciniak's channeled Pleiadian material and others, the religions were all seated here holographically and inserted like a hologram.
Correct.
Okay.
In ink.
Right. So the ancient texts, the Vedas, and the Bible,
They were all written by multidimensional beings who were leapfrogging through time, who had the predictive models that I just described.
right.
So when they wrote texts that were hyperdimensional, multidimensional, and holographic, the way it was inserted into this time stream is fudging the numbers at those points to get the numbers that you want at the end. So all of those books were meant to influence the people of this generation, and then this generation would interpret it this way, and they predicted that.
Right.
And this generation would make it this way for 7 generations.
Right.
And then this one would change it, and they've had predictions of all of that, where you'll be able to keep the original source. That's why the Torah says it can only be translated this way.
Okay.
In Chinese, they can only be translated this way.
Okay. Are there original source documents that have not been tampered with?
Yes.
And where do those exist?
All over the secret societies.
Ah.
Because those are the texts that they use to make the controllers, the higher end ones.
And are the controllers involved with the control rooms?
Yes.
And there are how many control rooms? 20?
40.
40.
But 21 of them have been found, 19 have not been found.
Now, do we know if those 19 are...
We talked about in the episode about Lemuria,
Right.
Hollow Earth. The hollow Earth has access to the other 19.
And
Those are the primary defensive systems and offensive systems of Earth, and they made sure that those would never be gotten into the weapon systems.
wonderful, wonderful. And
Weapons
so,
drive control.
oh, good, good. They're not like there are not enough weapons, you know, etheric satellites and so on and so forth. What kind of technology took out the Twin Towers?
It's a really good question. The Twin Towers happened because of many reasons. I don't really talk about this much, but I will because it's the right time to do it. The Twin Towers was 27 layers of time travel wars, all coinciding at the exact moment the first airplane was figured out that it was a terrorist. And then at that time you had 6 local realities all intersecting on timeline manifestation. 5,200 races trying to counter it, and 15 multidimensional beings with 200 million parts of themselves in psychic influencing, all ascending at that exact point to try to create it while you had millions trying to stop it.
Okay.
And it happened for 2 reasons. One, it broke several dozen timelines down to being camouflage, because they showed their hand by making this destruction. And those several dozen timelines allowed them to shut down hundreds and thousands of others to reduce the big giant spider web weave of timelines that were fake timelines down to a predictable model. So they showed their hand by creating fear for 10 years of energy.
Okay.
Which gave them a greater the counterforces a greater predictive ability for what was happening next. Was 9/11 foreseen? It was, and it wasn't.
Right.
There were people that knew it was coming, and there were others that agreed it was coming, but didn't really understand what it was going to be.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So, as I understand it, from my own information, it was a multidimensional event that occurred. For instance, there may have been pyrotechnics involved, and there may have been some kind of...
Actually, everything happened.
And
all
right.
of the Twin Towers basically existed on all of the timelines and got attacked on all the timelines at the exact same time and defended on all the timelines at the exact same time. And then when timelines began fading and fading and fading, and we get back to the center graduation timeline, which is the one that affects all the other ones, is what the sum result of what we have is a hole in the ground.
Or collapse, or
whatever the collapse,
timelines.
It was giving away how fake it is.
Right. Now, what was underneath? I saw that there was a duplicate of the Twin Towers underneath, and there was some kind of galactic civilization that's more advanced that actually planned it all out outside of time, as in a kind of artistic way. I saw an actual television program that was I saw on television, and it was a woman from some kind of advanced civilization, and she was in a museum, and she was explaining how the Twin Towers were created, and it was used to, as the breakup of duality was one of the messages. It was a wake-up call for humanity, and they crafted it. And in this museum were white paper mache people turning in fear. They were all white, life-size, and they panned through, and there was an Asian man who had helped with some of the graphics, and then the people who incarnated for that experience were kept unaware until they were pulled out at the moment that the...
You're figuring it out. See, that's the dream time of the post-event, allowing those people who weren't ready to leave to go back to that time and fix it.
Okay,
so they can graduate in the future.
Ah. Okay. And so it's kind of paradoxical.
It is a paradox, that's the thing.
Yeah.
It was a design paradox.
But it was done with love.
Well, the thing is, the system has to respond to paradox.
Right.
They created the concept of a worldwide on-camera fear event.
Right.
And everyone said, okay, you're going to put on a worldwide fear event that's a paradox. Let's really up the ante and put 10 million people all time traveling to try to stop it.
Wow. All right. Cool. Yeah. Cool. And see what would happen.
Let's roll the dice.
And what was the net effect of that?
10 years of fear.
Right.
And a truther movement.
And a truther movement,
that
right.
never existed before.
Yes, yes.
Worldwide.
Which is growing.
In the internet age.
Which is growing. And of course, for the controllers, it was a further win, pulling the gold out and manipulate, to whatever it is.
I call it, instead of the short buggy whip, they got the long buggy whip.
Okay.
But they're still in a buggy.
Okay. Well, we're about at the end of this segment, which flew by again like that little, bug that was flying around. So we will return with part 10, and stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
Back. This is part 9 of our Galactic history. I'm Lance White with Andrew Bartzis.
How you doing?
And we just left off talking about 911 as a multidimensional event.
Mm-hmm. Multidimensional time war event.
So that brings up the question, with all these timeline wars that occurred 50 plus million years ago that we've been talking about throughout this whole series, how many, just for re-clarification, how many timelines currently exist, and are they able?
One timeline, but our Earth has 3 timelines as its basic setup.
Okay.
The central graduation timeline was camouflaged. There were over 300,000 timelines. The above timeline had no choice but to absorb some of the 300,000, and the below timeline had no choice but to absorb some of the 300,000. And then it just kept creating more and more and more until finally it was overloaded, and it comes to the audit date. And in June 2011, they figured out how to unravel everything and figure out what is the central timeline. And once they did that, they were able to eliminate all the excess timelines except the above and below.
So they were able to do that without major trauma.
Correct.
Other than 911, which was
necessary to happen.
It was necessary to happen. And as we talked about, that was created from higher levels than the beyond light and dark.
It was
as a consciousness.
9/11 was created by the dark entities,
right?
And when they showed that hand, all the light entities had an infinite time to react because they're in time wars. So the event happens and everything reacts to it and does timeline travels to change it.
Right.
But what ultimately manifested is whoever had the royal flush got it to win, but at the price of winning took everything else out.
Right. So that's what collapsed all of those. And so that was really it served a much higher purpose in the long run. In the short run, the players that are still managing this universe,
they got their kegger party afterwards.
Yeah. And then, in fact, I heard one person said that I interviewed said that that Bush had flown into some kind of jet location, and when he got off, all the bankers and everything were all cheering and had champagne glasses, and that was aired like on television. And once, probably. I'm sure the person who aired that will never be
live very
speaking.
long.
Right? May you rest in peace. So now we're back to a normal timeline, and as far as the dark control goes, what it appears to be is that they're ramping up. But in
I'll give you their strategy.
Okay. Let's hear it.
You have 15 multidimensional beings with all their pieces parts.
Okay.
Each one is a master hive controller of all the avatars. Each avatar has a mission in the system to maintain control for their faction. You have, how do I put this? These 15 versus 5,280 exterior species, with a species that has amnesia and held hostage in between. So whatever they choose to move is not about us. It's about countering the influences of the groups coming in.
Right.
So
they have us already.
They have us already.
They've had us for a long time.
Yeah. We're one of their aces.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
So the moves that they do, dimensionally wise, are to counter the influencing of the positive forces here.
Okay.
The positive forces are trying to enter dream times, trying to get you to have positive dreams about galactic communication, free will, sovereignty, healing. They're encouraging those things, the good things that don't violate your free will when they're trying to give you the gift. The dark entities, how do I put this, will manipulate the ones the light entities are trying to fix. So it's a chess game with them, and at times they will put some players on a self-destructive path. So the good guys will come out and try to stop it, which will invest a whole group into here. Example like Syria.
Oh,
Why
yes.
won't America invest into Syria? Well, the Russians are there, their drug money's there, their slavery money's there,
Yeah.
you know, their black market money is there. They put all their eggs in that basket. That's a factions basket that got exposed on media. And why won't America help it? Because that would help a rebellion that wasn't started by any of the factions, but ultimately got took over by the factions because the media began to promote it as a war because it had no choice. Example, the Green Revolution in Iran. It did more to create new consciousness in the world than it did to free its people.
How so?
Because it was it was something that wasn't in the graphs and charts that they predicted.
Okay.
It was a natural human event that occurred at the youth level to the adult level in a dominated and controlled area. So the systems controllers there simply never saw it coming, ever.
So that's the blind spot that can be that neither side, none of the players are truly aware of. Maybe Prime Creator.
Correct.
Yeah.
Or just the consciousness going through the waves.
Right.
I mean, in the 60s, you rejected some. In the 70s, rejected. 80s, we rejected some of their controls frequently, and movements occurred. But the technology was to take over movements really fast. That's a lot of what their technology was about.
Yeah, right. To take over
domination and control.
Right, domination and control. So that's
they
why
learned from the 60s because the marches there weren't supposed. We could have been free in the 60s.
Right. And how did they wrap that one up? It seems like they brought in methamphetamine and cocaine and all kinds
Heroin.
of heroin, right?
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
And then prescription medicines.
Yes, yes. Oh, so as part of the shift, I must.
And jails.
Oh, yes, the jail system.
They went from almost no one in a jail to like 12 million in jail.
Yes, and private jails, and then of course you have the jails without rendition.
Yep.
That are being built faster than you can say Jack Rabbit, and then you've got that whole thing about the super soldiers and everything else and targeted individuals. So
correct.
And probably a lot more that we're not even.
Well, I've put together a number of super soldiers, and I put the Humpty Dumpty back together. And there's an actual system that would put this, is the warranty unit for anyone that's in the domination and control industry. They put a warranty on you, and if you break down, they'll fix you within that warranty. And if you don't break down by the end of the warranty, they kick you to the curb so they don't service you anymore. And that all runs through the Israeli programming units.
Huh.
Which are all where all 15 factions come together to share super soldier resources because they do take time to make them that way.
Run that by me again.
Okay. It's on.
Check.
Oh, no, it's on now. It was on.
So the 15 get together in Israel.
There's buildings in Israel that are ancient technology. They're part of the control room functions that influence the grids of Earth.
Okay.
So they bring entities there, which are super soldiers in training, and they mass mind program them so then they can be put into timelines and ripped out of timelines, and so they can still be in control because it's very detrimental to the soul to be ripped out of a timeline.
I would think.
And then when the type of mind control and domination that they do on them is very predictable of how many pieces parts you'll break into in sub-personalities, and then they'll program the certain personalities to have reactions or disreactions or preventative wake-up reactions, and all this is inserted into the person and then given a warranty.
A warranty?
An actual warranty.
Wow. Wow. And so what happens if they break down?
If they break down, the warranting agent, the programmers, will fix whatever that broke down.
Oh, okay.
And they're responsible for all the money and energy for it.
Right, because this isn't a cheap event.
Correct.
These things actually cost energy, money,
Correct.
whatever, the trade and technology and the rest of it. Or they can also kick you to the curb.
And that's what's happening and why all these super soldiers are coming out. Bill Brockbrader, classic example.
Yeah.
His warranty broke down while he was still in service, talking about Tomahawk missile double strikes in the 1990s. Okay?
And he's still in jail, isn't
He's in jail now on trumped-up charges.
On trumped-up charges, and in fact...
He was given the shaft.
He was given the shaft, and that they have also been exerting mind control and using chemicals and the rest of it on him as well. So,
well,
how many...
They're not mind controlling him like that, because he's integrated into the timeline, and if they take him out, the timeline falls apart for them. He's part of their predictive modeling because they've predicted him in the future.
So it's guaranteed that he has to be alive.
Yes.
But
and
so they can't...
And unmind controlled in a free-willed state.
Interesting.
But he's got programming he has to defeat on his own.
Wow. Now, how many of these people that you are aware of are being held that have stepped out of line?
I mean, I can list a name: Duncan Affinian, Miranda Affinian, Dave Corso, Casbolt. All of those guys that are on the super soldier thing, their warranty broke down and they were kicked to the curb. And eventually, they put themselves back enough together and got angry enough and went on air and talked about it.
So really what's important is when somebody starts to awaken to what's been going on and what's happened to them, it's important to not to repress the anger and do all the love and forgiveness thing right away. It's important to get your information out there.
Right.
Because otherwise no one else knows about it.
Exactly.
And we're all operating on a blind.
Exactly.
You know, like with white canes, because we have amnesia and we're not really connected that well.
Exactly.
Yeah. So this is part of the coming out process that you're talking about, that there will be information that will hit that will just be like waves of information, and about every level.
Every level.
Every level.
But the thing is, how do these waves cut? I liken it to a hurricane. Okay? The both sides predict an incoming hurricane. And one model says it'll hit Florida, and another model says it'll hit New York. Okay. And then you have 200,000 other people all making their own models saying it's right. No one knows.
Okay.
No one knows.
Okay, so that's kind of like HARP and weather control. The Fukushima event, obviously.
Yes. At the same time, the event is already done.
Right. And no one can mess with the timeline to alter it now. So now it seems as if each hand is going to have to be really, well, they're kind of stymied.
It's the highest dimensions chess move, final chess move.
Right, because it's played through all the repetitious games that can be played at every level.
Correct.
Right up to the final hand.
Right.
Okay.
But at the final hand is going to be not the way I described 9/11, where everything comes together to try to counteract it. It'll be like that, but on a Dreamtime level. The last powers of the sacred geometry cities that control our Dreamtime will battle against the unity consciousness Dreamtime together, and the disunity dream reality will fail, and its energy will be absorbed by the dream reality. Thus, the controllers have lost all their power. But we are the ones that have to pick up the pieces and understand what that all means, share the user manual to the human skin suit, begin to train healers, allow our galactic brothers in, still deal with Dreamtime, and still understand the fact that there's a planetary sentience that's waking up underneath our feet and wants to talk to us. Then we have neighbors in our solar system that are going to be knocking on the door for asking for a cup of sugar.
And from underneath into Hollow Earth and the various dimensions. Okay. And that will all happen
on a soul family level.
Okay.
That will be the separation of densities, and that will be how these migrations work.
And that will occur also on Dreamtime, but also in 3D time as well.
3D time will end.
Okay.
Eventually.
Well,
it'll sputter along.
Oh, you're right. Okay.
With stopwatch here, the stops here and there.
So, is it fair to say that things will begin to get very strange for a while because
there will be other timeouts.
Oh, okay.
But timeouts in a different way.
How so?
Let's think of the way an American football game works.
Okay.
You're down to 3 minutes. The game's tied. You know there's a 2-minute warning coming.
Right.
And you both got 3 timeouts left.
Right.
That means in American football time, that could go an hour and 25 minutes easily.
Oh, yeah.
That's where we're at now.
Okay.
So the forces of dark realize that they've already lost, and are going to do whatever they can do to save their own butts to not be in the choice of galactic recyclement. They're going to check their own ego there some way, shape, or form.
Mm.
The ones that don't care will run the program to the end and be removed.
Right.
The light forces that are in zealot nature and are battling the other ones that are in ego will also have sets of timeouts and will be given choices to figure out what they're going to do.
Because they're also out of control.
Out of control in
They're
a contractual form.
Yeah.
Then the people like us that are like me or like you that
Right.
are just here to be a part of resistance for the earth and we don't care about their political propagandas
Right.
are going to exude unity consciousness in a neutral way, and that will outweigh polarity. So there'll be unity consciousness that accepts both polarities but only allows you to perceive it as the neutral when you put it into your cellular memory.
Right.
Then there's light polarity that only going to allowing the light beliefs, and the dark polarity only allowing the dark beliefs. So all three of those will have to figure out how to work together.
Right. Right. And whatever is unable to work into the new equation, yeah, they're gone.
They're gone.
And we don't have to worry about any kind
We'll
of...
be in control of the control rooms, raise the density and vibration of the planet, and those entities that can't go through the incremental increasing of energy on the grid won't be able to live here.
Right.
And that includes some of the galactic brothers and sisters that are here right now.
Yeah.
They literally won't be able to live here because they haven't raised their vibration, and not enough of us have left to help them in their graduation process.
So once we graduate, though we'll be able to assist
by exchanging soul codes.
Okay.
So it finishes their process on their world.
But that's done from a multi-dimensional level, and then their dream time.
There will be us that physically go there, and the physical meeting will create healing that will spread inside that culture. And as that meeting spreads, they will have complete soul codes, and then they begin their ascension process. Or if they've already done it and are just missing the last piece and stuck, they get their party.
Okay, and then we have our own soul codes to complete.
Yep.
The what you call the vaccination, which has to do with not carrying a virus
out
from our realm, which has been implanted in us, into other galaxies and killing trillions of people without
which has happened many times.
Which has happened many times. And that has to do with the piracy of genetics and soul codes and the rest of it.
And in certain DNA-based virus lineages from low vibration worlds turned into weapons.
Ah, right. So little humans, like a human bomb.
Correct.
So when we see...
Plague carriers.
What are they? Plague carriers. Right. So yes, that would be a very tricky thing to do. I can see with that.
There were actually versions of us that were made to be that. And they're hidden amongst the DNA.
Well,
that was an actual thing that was built in. So if another race was a light race was going to invade here with physical troops on the ground and reconquer the local realities and bring them back up, they would have to deal with the fact that no matter how you scan the DNA, 1 out of every 1,000 was a plague carrier.
Was that one of the reasons for inventing HIV and AIDS?
No, that was to eliminate specific soul family members, actually.
Okay, which ones?
Anyone that's in a high-powered, high-energy soul family status. Like, you have enough relations to other people that the disease will look for people that has a large volume of soul family that was missed by the detection system.
Oh. Well, I must have a huge soul family because I've had HIV for 31 years and I'm still alive.
You're still alive.
I've had AIDS for 8 or 9, but debilitating.
You're still alive.
And I'm healthier than I've ever been. So, that breaks a few rules right there,
You healed yourself.
Well, technically, I still have to use the pharmaceuticals.
Right.
So, but there will be a point at which that will just dissolve. That the illusion, that part of the
illusion will dissolve.
Yes, and so that everything that we perceive as part of the holographic reality that's controlling us is really an illusion in the sense that it's been created to. It's like the Matrix, in other words, is what I'm trying to say. We're plugged into the Matrix.
We are plugged into the Matrix, yes.
And then some of us are working in the underground
and some of us are working in the underground of the underground.
Of the underground, right. And there might be...
Because even the underground is an illusion at times.
Oh, right.
Because the underground is still hollow earth.
Still duality and polarity.
Right.
So, because there can't be an under and over.
Here you get it now.
There only is.
There only is.
Right. So this has already happened, and you know.
But because it's already happened, it still has to finish.
Right,
because
and we
all
still
the timeline wars
right.
means it has to finish.
And we still have to sit here and go through the motions of talking and carrying on this conversation as if we've never done it before.
Yes, but at the same time, it's our free will to stop it. See, that's the crazy part about being a free-willed planet.
Oh, okay. You mean to just stop the conversation, or to stop?
To stop the event.
Oh. Now the event is not something we want to stop, is it? Hell no.
The sleep people want to stop it, though, because they're in domination and control.
Right.
Their tacit consent being taken.
Right, and so you have a huge...
manifesting, co-creating beings. We can manifest our own destruction or our own healing.
Right.
And some will manifest personal destruction in their own dream world until they're ready to come out. And there'll be those of us who parachute into these worlds and try to heal them and lure them out. And that a big portion of our society, that will be their job.
Yeah.
And many of the controllers will have to use their skills for good to help people out of that. That will be their restitution.
Right. That makes perfect sense.
Because they understand what put them in there, and they can understand what gets
them out the fastest. So it would be logical to get those people that have, exactly. So that would entail the use of all the control rooms.
Correct. Which would raise the vibration of Earth and the grid, and you'd be able to see the grid on the line and in the sky.
Right. So we'll be looking. Some of us will be looking, and we'll all of a sudden see things that weren't there before. Correct. And you mentioned the aurora borealis and the
North Pole. That's where the Dreamtime societies live.
Okay. Now they're there now, right?
They've always been there.
Okay. Those are the indigenous and the
ancestral family lineage homes.
Okay. All 72.
Well, there's more. There's 2,200 separate soul families.
Okay.
2,300 separate alien races that have all come here
to
input their DNA.
Oh, okay. And they're all basically stuck as well until we graduate. Or not?
No, not everyone is stuck.
Okay.
Certain parts of their migration patterns are stuck because other parts have their soul codes, which doesn't complete the soul codes of another soul family.
Okay.
So
it's all interrelated.
It's all interrelated.
Right.
Yes.
Right. So, in other words, it's the butterfly effect.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Huh.
Things that make you go, huh?
Yeah, things that make you go, in the night. Okay. Well, it looks like we're reaching the end of our...
Another multi-dimensional 25-minute second.
And I was just going to ask you about the Nazca lines and some of these other things and the historical... anyway, we will get into those topics that we were dreaming up when we return for part 11.
Okay.
I believe. Yes, that's right.
Part 11.
Okay. All right, break time. This is part 6 of our Galactic History with Lance White and Andrew Bartzis.
Okay.
And there's something that you touched on in the last episode that I thought was really important to get some clarity on. You were talking about fear and how the dark T-shirts are basically throwing out all they can at this point because they know that this is the time when they need to disrupt things. So June 21st apparently is a significant date.
Correct.
And why is that?
We've gone from galactic spring to galactic summer in unity with planetary summer. At that point in time is where we as a species naturally shed our old spiritual armor and create new. Think of a soft shell crab. It's shed its old and we're in the soft stage. The 21st represents the day you shed your old energetic skin. And to the 14th of July is where you have the opportunity to create new ones. If you are in fear, you will never create that process and you will just create the same spiritual armoring boundaries that you had before. We do this, it's just a natural process of being here. And then in December, we get an opportunity to create another one. So if those that are truly doing the hard work being self-nurturing, self-love, self-healing so you can heal others, that puts you in the path of being a fully aware light entity that respects the sovereign free will of yourself and others. The 21st is when they're going to turn on the fear again. In every level of media, in every level of society, there's going to be little games to get this group into fear, to get this group into fear. Information that they've been holding back, or stuff that maybe they only showed a little bit in 2012, but that's the teaser information. 2013 is about mining everything they created in 2012 to create fear. We're a manifesting, creating species, so our fear means we will create our own destruction. Like literally. We're at this point where there's not enough people in fear now to create destruction, but there's enough people still in fear to keep us from awakening.
Right. Right. So much of this will be on the internet? All the media?
It'll start with the 21st from the 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. Wherever you are, local time, there's going to be a mass release of psychic parasites through the internet. And that'll cause people to go into polarity. It'll people angry. People go into their addictions. And they'll begin to spread these parasites. And this parasite is an actual industry of people that use the internet to gather these parasites. These parasites naturally exist on Earth. Just like bugs or flies that eat the carrion, these parasites clean the spiritual energies that needs to be reprocessed. There are other parasites that are brought from other worlds that have been crossbred with ours and have been given specific attack functions so they can go after high energy beings, even though a low energy being is the broadcast energy for this parasite to get into you. There's different types. There's one that bore in like a screw, others that come up through the feet, and the goal is to get into the liver system. We have energy meridians all over body. They might just come in through one toe and stick in there, and then just slowly burrow up. And if you're unaware that they exist, it'll just be leg crampings or something simple until finally they get into your energetic system, and they make you eat more carbs, put on weight, cause depression, or cause you to separate in your marriage. They really create havoc. The internet trolls that we've all experienced, they'll be in full force. They're actually people that are hired to attack people. Those people are being paid $85 an hour to do it. There's been all sorts of soft disclosure about these organizations that are hiring people to create fake internet sites, to put out fake information, and alternately to attack anybody that's bringing out a layer of truth they don't like.
Absolutely. And that's been going on for quite a long time.
Quite a long time.
And through all the various governmental agencies and so on, they all have their versions of it.
Correct.
One of the people that I interviewed recently was Eve Lorgan, and she talks a lot about these parasites and how to deal with them on her website. So this is just something that has come into my awareness recently. And the various kinds of which you're talking about, and probably many more that we...
There's thousands.
Right.
Thousands.
Well, we know they're parasites within our bodies, so, and then...
It's natural, there's only energy parasites.
Yeah.
For getting rid of them, for everyone out there, salt is the great neutralizer. Salt. Pink Himalayan salt, standard kosher salt, not iodized salt. You need bigger size crystals. The kosher salt's bigger crystals. Sea salt's great. Colored salt. Put a Ziploc bag with a half a cup of salt, put it on the back of your neck, lay down on a pillow, and just let your energy meridians that are in the back of your neck flow through that salt. The salt will begin to create neutralizing energy that will repel the parasites. It's just like putting salt on a slug, they dissolve. Okay? For those people that are having trouble in dream times or having night terrors, put a bag of salt on your head, back of your neck and your tailbone. Use some little medical tape. It melds to your skin just like an ice pack. And you will not only take away the parasites, but allow yourself to have a natural regenerative sleep. So you can once again have the energy and the space to store your dreams.
Very good suggestions, and I think you also mentioned putting one on your router and
on your router, turn your cell phone off at night.
Right.
Turn your router off at night.
So there's no transmission.
No transmission. These parasites function through the transmission factors of all our different devices.
So if you shut everything down for the most part and minimize your you
can still function with them when you're asleep. Turn them off.
Right.
For those people out there that can't don't sleep with your cell phone next to your bed. It interacts with your dream time.
Right.
They lure you into the sacred dream time local cities, so you never dream in a global dream time.
Right, right.
You're in the fake world. George talks about how much they've hijacked us. It goes even deeper than what he says. He could only point out what he's experienced, and I can only point out what I experience. But when people like us come together through talks like this, or we get the more and more and more of the picture. Mm-hmm. Without people like them stepping forward with the brass set to out there, we wouldn't be in a scenario where we all can talk like this.
Right, right. The door's been open wide.
That's right.
Yeah.
Somebody kicked it open and there's the lock's broken on
it. And it also empowers other people to stand up in their own power and speak, their own truth. To even see it and experience it, which is going to be something new for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm. And just to clear something up, there's so many perspectives to look at this from. My perspective is the sacred neutral. This is information to me. There's no polarity in it. I don't have dogmas or political concepts or things that I'm promoting other than our full, transparent history with no secrets.
Mm-hmm. That's about time.
About time.
It's about time. So, what are the period of time that this is going to be most likely to occur is all the way through July?
From the 21st of June to the 14th of July is your rearmoring phase.
Okay.
This is where people should turn off their cell phones, turn off their TV, begin to meditate, do whatever it takes for you to do to empower yourself.
Okay. Now, one of the other things that we were talking about in the last session was about Agartha and the fall of Atlantis, the third fall of Atlantis. Mm-hmm. Did you want to add anything more to that?
Where we left off there, I know we go back and forth a little bit, but to get this story, there's so much you have to understand about now, because if I just explain then, it doesn't interlink to now. And we understand everything in between there. There are people that are leapfrogging through time, making sure that there's a monetary system and a system of domination and control that's in unity conscious with disunity consciousness of creation. It's a Three Stooges show. Okay? I can't violate the sovereign free will of individuals, let alone a whole species.
But it will be obvious to...
Blatantly obvious. It's like the scene where the dress flies up and you see the underpants.
Yeah. Great.
Or she's going European.
Well, it'll be a lot of fun for some people who've been, sitting in the theater, waiting for the show to begin. Mm-hmm.
That's right. Well, again, we don't need cheerleaders. We don't need people sitting watching the theater. We need people out there motivating people to claim their sovereign free will.
Right, and taking the steps and taking the actions and clearing yourself and healing.
Another thing about the Hollow Earth system, they're the ones that are going to, because they're soul family and will instantly recognize them when they're allowed to be on the surface world, on the graduating timeline. They're the ones that are going to take over our court system. Our court system is absolutely corrupt from the top down. Mm-hmm. It's meant to cannibalize its own people and put them into corporate slavery or physical slavery. Yeah. The court system will be something that immediately has to be addressed because there's, 22 million people in our jail system here. Worldwide, I think, was it a 6 or 9% of our population of the whole world's in a jail system?
At least.
And then you have the sex slave industry, which is a giant industry, and it's an industry, and there are slaves.
Yeah.
They will have to be taken care of by the new court system, and these will be called spiritual courts of equity, where your ancestors manifest in a full presence and allow what's been done to you to be read into fullness of the Akashic record so you can fully get the healing that's needed by getting your sovereign free will. The sex slave industry has been created exactly to take the power away from the sacred feminine, and that has to be addressed immediately. The event, it's the event. The event really is about healing too. Our women and our men are doing things that are opposite of their nature because they've been lured that way and they don't have the real information of what they're supposed to do, what they're supposed to be. Those women that are out there, they're having difficulty with their menstrual cycles. You can use meditation to connect to that energy and get deeper into an understanding of it. Those men that are highly sexually charged, it's time for you to understand that you can do your own vision quests. You just have to have the gratitude and understanding of what it takes to go through with it.
Now, it seems that concurrent with those things will also have to be a complete revamp of the, quote, financial system.
Mm-hmm. The banking industry is the chief violator of our free will. The chief violator. Only this world are you charged to live in it. Okay? And that I believe Alex Collier is the one that coined that phrase. You got to give him his credit for that, because it's a great saying. But on top of that, they tax you every lifetime, so you're never at full power. Okay? The banking industry is controlled by family crests, by manor rolls, by laws that are physically written to affect you on a spiritual level.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? The banking industry, the exchange for value system will have to be rediscovered the way the rest of the worlds in the universe work. The planetary sentience, Earth Mother, is the overseer of all exchange for values.
Mm-hmm.
Every single thing. And the Earth sentience will be a part of physical technology that guarantees a transaction is transparent and there's no foul play behind it. The scam artists are done. The telemarketers done. Okay?
Good. It'll be a relief to see all that advertising that's popping up everywhere. I mean, it's getting so invasive that it just practically pops off the screen.
On purpose.
Yeah.
On purpose.
Yeah, it seems like it can't get any worse, and then they come up with a new technique for harvesting, trying to harvest our money and our energy.
The banking system that we have today, when Atlantis was going through its final fall, they had a kind of a hybrid system of exchange for value. They traded technology for spiritual information. World War II and World War I and the Cold War was about creating the technology and then selling it to your friends for an even higher price to put them all into debt. The same thing was applied to the Atlantean levels. They traded their technology or their spiritual technology for resources or for technology, maybe it's spiritual technology. They knew they were losing. They knew that they had to plan way ahead of time. And then they needed people to be a part of the resistance of free earth, which is all of us, and to be a cell of one. So you weren't a pod, you were a cell of one. So all of us individuals are a cell of one of the resistance of free earth. Everyone here at this time, all those people that haven't gotten to graduate, we're all resistance free earth. Every single one of us.
So how can we take an active role in that?
There are so many books out there that begin the process. I can't even begin to name them all. I don't think it's appropriate to identify a single one in this, but they're out there.
Right.
Let your heart do that determination.
Right.
There's so many positive teachers out there now where they were never allowed to speak before. Go to a bookstore. Allow your heart to help make you the choice.
Right.
Okay?
Right. Gravitate towards the one or let one fall off the shelf.
Pick up some crystals. Go do an energy healing class. Do something that gives you information that you can use as a hobby that you do for fun and for free. When we don't come from for fun and for free stage, it's a task, and we don't pull our full consciousness into it.
Right. Now you were talking too about some of we skipped around with the Time Wars. How extensive are they today, and what's going on with all these conflicts around the world? Is this just the ramping up of
the conflicts around the world? All of the conflicts in the Arab world are about preventing 7 womb chakras from opening up. They have violence and war on them for an extended period of time, with the major exchange for value systems depositing taxed soul energy into those sacred geometry buildings and ancient technologies that have been there since the Atlantean fortification days. So those womb chakras are the ones that are going to open first. They've always known that. Therefore, those are the places that have to have war on the surface to prevent the Earth's unity consciousness reaching out through all of the chakras. So it's like putting a cork in it.
Are there also battles for stargates going on?
Absolutely. There's a massive attempt to smuggle DNA off this world, as well as living humans off this world. So any opportunity they find random rifts, or they find specialized rifts left over from technology that no one's known about for 52 million years, they will use it to their advantage, because they get repaid every time they can get the proper DNA off.
Wow.
You know, as for Time Wars, we're on a unified timeline since June 2011. But we here right now live all of our past, present, and future lives simultaneously. So when you begin to understand that layer, combined with the Time Wars layer, we can end all the Time Wars in unity consciousness, global dream time, where we can heal ourselves as a global society. The off-world wars are a little different. In 2006, we could have been done with this. The Syrian Grey and Orion wars, when they finally ended, the forces were so depleted, they didn't have the physical oomph to come here and kick them out.
Wow. And
tear the power out of their cold dead hands. But at the same time, they discovered a massive layer of corruption within their own late society. So the Hollow Earth and the Agartha Network is to make sure that there's unity consciousness spreading amongst our people, that in Dreamtime that they can communicate with people, be Dreamtime protectors. Also, we have to understand this Agartha Network also is off-world species. Off-world species are our soul family. Plain and simple, they are our soul family. Some are good, some are bad, some are neutral, some are really funny species. You know, some are all musicians. We have to come to the understanding that we are the reflection of them, they are the reflection of us. We're all soul family. The Agartha Network is the ambassadorial spot where these species can come in unity consciousness so that we can all see these reflections of ourselves, where we can hold galactic councils in a peaceful state and resolve issues, resolve karma. Many of us are going to be asked to be emissaries or ambassadors, but take out the human definition of emissary and ambassador. Take out that matrix and understand those people that go forth are the first layer of the graduating students that say, this is what I've learned, this is my life story. And everyone that comes out saying, this is my life story, this is what I learned in this galactic ascension machine. And the Hollow Earth will be the ones that hold that information for all 7 future generations that will come in after the system of domination and control is done. They're the ones that are going to have to oversee the backlog of immigrants that couldn't get in, or all those people that are stuck in the astral world that are told, no, you can't get in.
Wow. So, for some of us, the period of time that leads up to the event will be fairly quick.
Correct. The awake people will experience it much faster than the sleeps.
And so, what you're talking about now, the backlog and the rest of it, would that
after
be
event, after the second part. There's 4 phases of the event. It'll be after the second part of the event.
Okay, so can you go over those 4 phases again?
First phase is shared dream times.
Right.
Second phase is the adults in us begin to experience deja vu on a mass scale, as well as dreams. Third phase is where we begin separating realities, where the lower density people will dream themselves into a local reality, and the higher density people will dream themselves in a higher density reality, so that they can begin to be more in touch with their manifesting co-creating powers. This will be done through dream time. You may have a friend that disappears for a week and then comes back a whole different person. On a mass scale, sort of. But it only takes a few to change the world. And at the same time, it takes many to enforce the change to make it complete.
Right.
We can have change, but we won't have complete change until everyone experiences it.
So it pretty much is all for all of us working together.
All of us working together, and it coming to removing of soul contracts with the system of domination and control. That's really what the third and fourth phase are, is where we're claiming our sovereign free will on a level where we're outmarching in the same scale and size of the 1960s and 70s.
Yeah, it seems like there's been such a large complacency, and that we've been just so dumbed down with artificial intelligence and technological controls.
Mm-hmm.
We've just been unable to even turn around without, to make a move. So there's bound to be a lot of changes that occur from now on. From now on, really.
Yes. In my current interfunction with the Akashic record, I've already seen the end, and there's a part of me already there. I couldn't do this without that. And honestly, it was a little disturbing at first, but it was also the spark of hope that I needed to complete this task, knowing that everyone that's followed the Galactic historian before me didn't survive, because when you stop secrets, people get angry.
So how does it end?